Apply Parkinson's law. Apply Parkinson's law means using time constraints to increase efficiency. The law states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Give yourself a week for a task, it takes a week. Give yourself a day, it takes a day. Often, the quality remains similar. This reveals how much time we waste through unnecessary perfectionism and procrastination. Most people think more time means better results. Sometimes this is true. But often, more time just means more overthinking. More second-guessing. More delay. Tight deadlines force decisions. They eliminate options paralysis. They push you to focus on what truly matters. Start by cutting your time estimates in half. That report you plan to spend 4 hours on. Try 2 hours. That project you allocated 2 weeks for. Try 1 week. You'll be surprised how often this works. You'll find shortcuts you didn't know existed. You'll stop obsessing over minor details. The law works because pressure clarifies priorities. When time is unlimited, everything feels important. When time is scarce, only the essential survives. You naturally focus on high-impact activities. You eliminate busy work. You make faster decisions. Use artificial deadlines even when real ones don't exist. Tell someone when you'll deliver. Schedule the presentation. Create accountability. External pressure often works better than internal pressure. It makes the deadline feel real and urgent. Gamify boring tasks. Gamify boring tasks means adding game elements to mundane activities. Games are engaging because they provide clear goals, immediate feedback, and progressive challenges. Regular tasks lack these elements. They feel pointless and draining. But you can inject game mechanics to make them more motivating and fun. Create scoring systems. Give yourself points for completing tasks. Small tasks earn fewer points. Big tasks earn more. Keep a running total. Compete against your past performance. This turns productivity into a measurable game with clear winners and losers. Set up levels and achievements. Beginners might answer 10 emails to reach level 2. Intermediate players might clear their entire inbox for a bonus achievement. Advanced players might maintain inbox 0 for a week straight. Each level brings new challenges and recognition. Add time challenges. How fast can you clean your desk? Can you beat yesterday's time? Racing against the clock creates urgency and engagement. It turns slow tasks into speed challenges. Just be sure to maintain quality while increasing pace. Use reward strategically. Complete 5 difficult tasks and earn a coffee break. Finish the weekly report and enjoy a favorite snack. Make rewards proportional to effort. Small tasks get small rewards. Big tasks get bigger ones. This creates positive reinforcement cycles that sustain motivation. Apply the 1% daily improvement rule. Apply the 1% daily improvement rule means making tiny gains that compound over time. Most people want dramatic change overnight. They try to transform everything at once. This approach fails because it's unsustainable. Your brain resists big changes. Your habits fight back. You burn out quickly and return to old patterns. 1% improvement is different. It's barely noticeable. Your resistance doesn't activate. The change feels so small it doesn't trigger fear or overwhelm. But small improvements compound like interest. 1% better each day means you're 37 times better after 1 year. The math is stunning. Think about any skill you want to develop. Writing. Speaking. Exercising. Leading. You don't need to improve dramatically today. You just need to get slightly better than yesterday. Read 1 more page. Do 1 more repetition. Have 1 better conversation. These micro-improvements accumulate into major transformation. The rule works because it focuses on process over outcome. You're not trying to become perfect. You're trying to become slightly better. This removes pressure. It makes improvement feel achievable. It creates positive momentum that builds on itself. Track your improvements to see the compound effect. Keep a simple log. Note what you did today that was 1% better than yesterday. Over weeks and months, you'll see remarkable progress. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable through consistent micro-gains. Keep a done list. Keep a done list means tracking accomplishments instead of just tracking tasks. To-do lists are everywhere. They help organize work. But they also create a treadmill effect. You check things off, add new things on. The list never empties. This can feel discouraging. You focus on what's left undone instead of what you've achieved. A done list flips this dynamic. At the end of each day, write down what you accomplished. Big things and small things. Important tasks and routine ones. Meetings attended. Emails answered. Problems solved. People helped. This creates a record of progress that's easy to forget otherwise. Done lists boost motivation. They provide evidence of productivity when you feel like you're spinning your wheels. They remind you that you're making progress even when the to-do list stays long. They help you see patterns in your most productive activities. Review your done list weekly. Look for themes. What types of tasks do you complete most easily? Which ones consistently get delayed? This insight helps you plan better. You can schedule difficult tasks during your peak energy times. You can eliminate or delegate tasks that drain you unnecessarily. Done lists also help in performance reviews and interviews. Instead of struggling to remember your accomplishments, you have a detailed record. You can speak confidently about your contributions because you've been tracking them consistently. Teach it to learn it. Teach it to learn it means using explanation as a tool for deeper understanding. When you teach something, you process it differently than when you just learn it. Teaching forces you to organize information clearly. You must identify the most important points. You need to explain complex ideas simply. This process reveals gaps in your knowledge and strengthens what you do understand. The act of teaching activates different parts of your brain. You're not just receiving information. You're actively reconstructing it. You're anticipating questions. You're thinking about how to make concepts clear to someone else. This mental work deepens your own comprehension. You don't need a formal classroom to use this technique. Explain concepts to friends. Write blog posts about what you're learning. Create presentations for colleagues. Record videos for yourself. Even explaining to an imaginary audience works. The key is articulating your understanding in words. Teaching also forces you to simplify. Complex jargon won't work when explaining to beginners. You must find clear, simple language. This simplification process often leads to breakthrough insights. You discover the core essence of ideas that seemed complicated before. Use this method for any subject you want to master. New software. Business strategies. Creative techniques. Scientific concepts. The more you practice explaining these topics, the better you understand them. Teaching becomes a powerful tool for your own learning and development. Apply the 80-20 rule ruthlessly. Apply the 80-20 rule ruthlessly means identifying the vital few among the trivial many. The Pareto principle states that roughly 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. This pattern appears everywhere. 20% of customers generate 80% of revenue. 20% of activities produce 80% of happiness. 20% of problems cause 80% of stress. Most people spread effort evenly across all activities. This is inefficient. It treats important and unimportant tasks equally. Ruthless application means dramatically different treatment. You spend most time and energy on the vital 20%. You minimize or eliminate the trivial 80%. Start by identifying your 20% in different life areas. Which relationships bring the most joy? Which work tasks create the most value? Which possessions do you actually use? Which activities energize you most? These are your vital few. They deserve premium attention and resources. Next, examine your trivial 80%. What can you eliminate completely? What can you delegate? What can you do with minimal effort? Be honest about activities that feel important but don't actually matter. Social obligations that drain you. Projects that seem urgent but aren't valuable. Habits that consume time without creating benefit. This approach requires saying no frequently. You'll disappoint some people. You'll miss some opportunities. But you'll excel at what matters most. Your results will improve dramatically because you're focusing energy where it counts. Visualize worst case to reduce anxiety. Visualize worst case to reduce anxiety means confronting fears to diminish their power. Anxiety thrives on uncertainty. Your mind imagines vague disasters. The unknown feels threatening. But when you deliberately visualize specific worst-case scenarios, something interesting happens. They become less scary. You realize you could handle them better than expected. Start with the situation causing anxiety. Maybe it's a job interview. A difficult conversation. A presentation. Instead of avoiding thoughts about what could go wrong, lean into them. What's the absolute worst that could happen? Really think it through. Be specific and realistic. Often, the worst case isn't as bad as your anxious mind suggests. You might embarrass yourself in the presentation. But you wouldn't die. Your career wouldn't end. People would forget quickly. You could recover and try again. This perspective reduces the threat level. Even genuinely bad outcomes become manageable when examined closely. Losing your job is scary. But you have savings. You could find another position. You might even discover better opportunities. You have more resilience and resources than anxiety acknowledges. This visualization also enables preparation. If you know what could go wrong, you can plan responses. Have backup plans. Practice recovery strategies. This preparation further reduces anxiety because you feel more in control. Use if-then planning. Use if-then planning means preparing responses to anticipated situations. Most plans assume everything will go smoothly. They don't account for obstacles, distractions, or changing circumstances. When problems arise, you're caught off guard. You make poor decisions under pressure. If-then planning prepares you for likely challenges before they occur. The format is simple. If X happens, then I will do Y. This creates implementation intentions. Pre-made decisions for common scenarios. You're not deciding what to do when stressed or rushed. You're executing a plan you made when thinking clearly. For example, if I feel like skipping my workout, then I will put on my exercise clothes anyway. This removes the decision-making burden when motivation is low. You don't debate whether to exercise. You follow the predetermined plan. If-then plans work because they're specific and actionable. Vague intentions like, I'll eat healthier, don't survive real-world pressures. But, if I'm hungry at 3 p.m., then I will eat the apple one packed, creates clear guidance. It reduces willpower requirements and improves follow-through. Create if-then plans for your most important goals. Anticipate obstacles you're likely to face. Design specific responses. Practice these responses mentally. When challenges arise, you'll be prepared. Your success rate will improve because you've planned for both ideal conditions and reality. Use deadlines as creative constraints. Use deadlines as creative constraints means harnessing time pressure to boost innovation. Most people see deadlines as creativity killers. They believe unlimited time produces better ideas. But research shows the opposite. Constraints often enhance creativity. They force you to think differently. They push you beyond obvious solutions. Deadlines eliminate option paralysis. When time is unlimited, you can pursue any direction. This freedom becomes paralyzing. You second-guess every choice. You never commit fully to any path. Time constraints force decisions. They push you to act on good enough ideas rather than searching endlessly for perfect ones. Pressure also activates different thinking patterns. When relaxed, you often rely on familiar approaches. When pressured, you break normal patterns. You try unusual combinations. You take creative risks you wouldn't normally consider. Some of your best ideas emerge under pressure. Create artificial deadlines even when real ones don't exist. Tell people when you'll deliver. Schedule presentations. Set personal challenges. The external commitment makes the deadline feel real. It creates urgency that drives creativity. Use different types of constraints beyond time. Budget limits. Word counts. Material restrictions. Format requirements. Each constraint forces different creative solutions. They prevent you from defaulting to expensive, complex, or lengthy approaches. They push you toward elegant simplicity. Use constraint thinking. Use constraint thinking means deliberately limiting options to enhance problem solving. Unlimited freedom sounds appealing, but it often leads to decision paralysis and mediocre solutions. Constraints force creativity. They push you to do more with less. They lead to elegant, innovative approaches you wouldn't discover with unlimited resources. Start with resource constraints. What if you had half the budget? What if you had 1/3 the time? What if you could only use 3 words? These limitations force you to focus on essentials. They eliminate nice-to-have features that don't add real value. Try format constraints. Write your proposal in 1 page. Explain your idea in 60 seconds. Create your solution using only materials you have at home. These restrictions push you toward clarity and simplicity. They prevent overthinking and over-engineering. Use constraint games to generate ideas. What's the worst solution you could imagine? How would a child solve this problem? What would the solution look like if it had to be completely free? These thought experiments reveal assumptions you didn't know you were making. Apply constraints to learning too. Study a topic for exactly 30 minutes. Read only primary sources. Learn from practitioners, not theorists. These boundaries force focused attention. They prevent endless research that delays action. Practice opposite thinking. Practice opposite thinking means deliberately considering the reverse of your initial thoughts. Most people think in one direction. They follow familiar patterns. They pursue obvious solutions. But the opposite direction often reveals surprising insights. It exposes assumptions you didn't know you were making. It opens pathways you wouldn't normally explore. When facing any problem, ask yourself what the opposite approach would look like. If you're trying to gain customers, consider how you might lose them. This reveals what drives them away. If you want to be more productive, think about what makes you least productive. This highlights obstacles to eliminate. Opposite thinking works especially well for personal development. Want to build confidence? Study what destroys confidence. Want better relationships? Examine what ruins relationships. Want to be happier? Identify what consistently makes you miserable. The reverse perspective clarifies what to avoid and what to embrace. Use this technique for creative projects too. If you're designing something beautiful, consider what would make it ugly. If you're writing something engaging, think about what would bore readers. These opposite explorations often lead to breakthrough insights about what truly works. The practice requires mental flexibility. Your brain resists thinking backwards. It feels unnatural. But this resistance is exactly why opposite thinking is valuable. It forces you beyond automatic responses. It activates different neural pathways. It generates options you'd never discover through conventional thinking alone. Batch similar tasks. Batch similar tasks means grouping related activities to maximize efficiency and focus. Task switching is expensive for your brain. Every transition requires mental recalibration. You lose time and energy constantly shifting between different types of work. Batching eliminates these switching costs by keeping you in the same mental mode for extended periods. Identify tasks that use similar mental resources. All your phone calls in one block. All your email responses in another. All your creative work during your peak energy hours. All your administrative tasks when energy is lower. This grouping prevents the mental whiplash of jumping between completely different activities. Create themed time blocks in your schedule. Monday mornings for planning. Tuesday afternoons for meetings. Wednesday mornings for deep work. Friday afternoons for catching up and organizing. These patterns train your brain to expect certain types of work at certain times. Batch similar tasks within single work sessions too. When writing, do all your research first, then all your outlining, then all your drafting. When organizing, collect everything first, then sort everything, then put everything away. This sequential approach is more efficient than mixing all activities together. The technique works for personal tasks as well. Batch all your errands into one trip. Do all your meal prep in one session. Handle all your household maintenance on the same day. This concentrated effort often takes less total time than spreading tasks throughout the week. Apply the 2-minute rule. Apply the 2-minute rule means immediately completing any task that takes less than 2 minutes. Small tasks accumulate quickly. They clutter your mind and your to-do list. They create background stress even though individually they're insignificant. The 2-minute rule prevents this accumulation by handling small tasks immediately rather than postponing them. When you encounter a quick task, ask whether it takes less than 2 minutes. Replying to a simple email. Filing a document. Making a brief phone call. Washing a dish. If yes, do it immediately instead of adding it to your task list. This prevents small tasks from multiplying into overwhelming piles. The rule works because 2 minutes is shorter than the time it takes to capture, organize, and later retrieve a task. Writing, reply to John's email, on your list, then later finding and completing it actually takes longer than just replying immediately. The immediate action is more efficient. Use the rule for maintenance activities too. Clean up your workspace at the end of each day. Put items back where they belong immediately after use. Address small problems before they become big problems. These tiny investments prevent larger time costs later. Be realistic about time estimates. People often underestimate how long tasks actually take. If you're not sure whether something takes 2 minutes, it probably takes longer. Don't use the rule as an excuse to start major tasks. Reserve it for genuinely quick actions that would otherwise accumulate unnecessarily. Remove one option for faster decisions. Remove one option for faster decisions means deliberately limiting choices to accelerate decision-making. More options seem better. They provide flexibility and control. But they also create paralysis. Research shows that too many choices decrease satisfaction and delay decisions. Removing options can improve both speed and satisfaction. Identify decisions where you consistently get stuck. Restaurant menus with too many choices. Streaming services with endless content. Shopping sites with overwhelming options. For these situations, create artificial constraints. Pick 3 potential restaurants before looking at menus. Choose from your watch list instead of browsing everything available. Use pre-made decision frameworks to eliminate options automatically. Always choose the healthiest menu option. Always pick the book recommended by someone you trust. Always select the meeting time that works for the most people. These rules remove the need to evaluate every alternative repeatedly. For important decisions, limit yourself to 3 good options maximum. Research shows 3 is often the sweet spot. Fewer than 3 might not capture the best possibilities. More than 3 creates unnecessary complexity. 3 options provide choice without overwhelming analysis. Apply this principle to recurring decisions. Create a standard work uniform to eliminate daily clothing choices. Establish regular meal rotations to avoid constant meal planning. Set up default responses for common situations. These systemized choices free mental energy for more important decisions. Avoid sunk cost fallacy. Avoid sunk cost fallacy means making decisions based on future value, not past investment. The fallacy tricks you into continuing bad situations because you've already invested time, money, or energy. You stay in the wrong job because you've been there 5 years. You finish boring books because you're halfway through. You continue failed projects because you've already spent so much. This backwards thinking wastes additional resources on top of what you've already lost. Sunk costs are gone forever. They can't be recovered regardless of what you do next. The only question that matters is whether continuing makes sense based on future prospects. Will staying in this job improve your career from today forward? Will finishing this book provide value for the remaining pages? Will completing this project create meaningful results? Practice making fresh decisions regularly. Pretend you're encountering the situation for the first time. Would you start this job today? Would you begin reading this book now? Would you initiate this project with current knowledge? If the answer is no, the rational choice is to stop regardless of past investment. This principle applies to relationships, hobbies, business ventures, and daily activities. Past time spent learning guitar doesn't obligate you to continue if you no longer enjoy it. Previous investment in a failing business doesn't require throwing good money after bad. Yesterday's effort doesn't determine today's priorities. The key is separating emotional attachment from rational analysis. Acknowledge the loss. Feel disappointed about wasted effort. Then focus on making the best decision going forward with the information you have now. Pause before reacting emotionally. Pause before reacting emotionally means creating space between stimulus and response when feelings run high. Emotional reactions feel urgent. They demand immediate action. But acting on intense emotions often creates problems you later regret. The pause gives you time to choose your response rather than being controlled by automatic reactions. Strong emotions hijack rational thinking. When you're angry, scared, or hurt, your brain's alarm system takes control. It prioritizes quick reaction over careful consideration. This served our ancestors well when facing physical threats. But it works poorly for modern challenges that require thoughtful responses. The pause doesn't need to be long. Even 10 seconds can restore some rationality. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Step away from the situation briefly. Ask yourself what response would serve you best in the long run. This small delay often prevents decisions you'd regret later. Use the pause to identify what you're really feeling. Are you angry about the current situation or frustrated about something else entirely? Are you responding to facts or to stories you're telling yourself about those facts? Often, examination reveals that your emotional intensity doesn't match the actual situation. During the pause, consider multiple response options. What would happen if you responded with curiosity instead of defensiveness? What if you asked questions instead of making accusations? What if you waited until tomorrow to address the issue? These alternatives often work better than your first emotional impulse. Ask, what would future me thank me for, means making decisions from the perspective of your older, wiser self. Present bias makes you overvalue immediate rewards and undervalue future benefits. You choose comfort now over growth later. You avoid short-term difficulty even when it leads to long-term gain. This question helps you think beyond the present moment. Imagine yourself 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years in the future. What actions would that version of you appreciate most? What habits would create the biggest positive impact over time? What investments in learning, health, or relationships would pay the biggest dividends? This future perspective often reveals the right choice. The question works especially well for avoiding temptation. When you want to skip exercise, eat junk food, or procrastinate on important tasks, ask what future you would prefer. Would tomorrow's version of you thank you for the extra sleep or for the morning workout? Would next month's version appreciate the indulgent meal or the healthy choice? Use this thinking for positive decisions too. What skills would future you wish you had started learning today? What relationships would benefit from more attention now? What problems would be easier to solve with early action? These insights guide you toward choices that compound positively over time. Make the future version of yourself vivid and specific. Picture where you'll be living, what you'll be doing, what challenges you might face. The more real future you feels, the more motivating this perspective becomes for present decisions. Use a one-word theme for the year. Use a one-word theme for the year means choosing a single focus word to guide decisions and priorities throughout the year. Resolutions are specific but often forgotten. Goals are measurable but sometimes rigid. A theme word is flexible yet directional. It provides consistent guidance without overwhelming detail. It helps you stay aligned with what matters most. Choose a word that represents how you want to grow or what you want to emphasize. Focus, if you tend to spread attention too thin. Health, if you want to prioritize physical well-being. Connection, if relationships need attention. Simplicity, if life feels too complicated. The word should resonate emotionally and provide clear direction. Use your theme word as a decision filter throughout the year. When facing choices, ask which option better aligns with your word. If your word is growth, choose challenges over comfort. If it's balance, avoid extremes in any direction. If it's courage, pick the scarier but more meaningful path. Let the word evolve in meaning as the year progresses. Focus might start as productivity focus but shift to relationship focus later. Strength could begin as physical strength but develop into emotional resilience. This flexibility keeps the theme relevant as circumstances change. Review your word regularly. Monthly check-ins help you assess how well you're living according to your theme. Are your actions aligned with your word? What adjustments would better honor your chosen focus? This review keeps the theme active rather than forgotten. Seek asymmetric bets. Seek asymmetric bets means looking for opportunities where potential gains far exceed potential losses. Most people think linearly about risk and reward. They expect equal upside for equal downside. But the most successful decisions often involve asymmetric risk. Small investments that could produce massive returns. Limited downside with unlimited upside potential. Think about starting a side business. The downside is limited to your time investment and small startup costs. The upside could be financial freedom and career transformation. Learning a new skill has minimal downside beyond time spent. But it could open entirely new career paths or creative outlets. Look for bets where you can afford to lose the investment completely, but the potential gains are life-changing. Reading books has tiny costs but can transform your thinking. Meeting new people requires small time investments but could lead to partnerships, friendships, or opportunities. Taking calculated career risks might set you back months but could advance you years. Asymmetric bets often involve learning, relationships, and creative pursuits. These areas tend to have compounding returns that aren't immediately obvious. The person you help today might help you tremendously later. The skill you develop as a hobby might become professionally valuable. The project you start for fun might become a business. Avoid symmetric bets where losses and gains are roughly equal. Don't risk money you can't afford to lose for modest returns. Don't sacrifice important relationships for small conveniences. Focus on opportunities where the worst case is manageable and the best case is transformational. Apply the rule of 3 for focus. Apply the rule of 3 for focus means limiting priorities to 3 items for maximum effectiveness. The human brain handles 3 things well. 3 is enough to avoid oversimplification. 3 is few enough to maintain focus. More than 3 priorities usually means no real priorities. Everything feels equally important, so nothing gets adequate attention. Use the rule at different time scales. 3 priorities for the year. 3 goals for the month. 3 tasks for the day. This creates nested focus that cascades from long-term vision to immediate action. Each level supports the others while maintaining manageable scope. When choosing your 3 items, pick different types when possible. 1 creative project, 1 relationship goal, 1 health priority. 1 urgent task, 1 important task, 1 learning task. This variety prevents tunnel vision while maintaining focus. It ensures you're making progress across different life areas. Resist the temptation to add more items when you're doing well. Success makes everything seem possible. You want to take on additional priorities. But diluting focus usually reduces effectiveness across all areas. Better to excel at 3 things than to be mediocre at many. Review and adjust your 3 priorities regularly. Monthly for annual priorities. Weekly for monthly priorities. Daily for daily priorities. Things change. New opportunities arise. Old priorities become less relevant. Regular review keeps your 3 items aligned with current reality and goals. Seek disconfirming evidence. Seek disconfirming evidence means actively looking for information that contradicts your beliefs and assumptions. Confirmation bias makes you seek information that supports what you already think. This feels good but doesn't improve your understanding. Disconfirming evidence challenges your thinking. It reveals flaws in your logic. It prevents costly mistakes based on wrong assumptions. For any important belief or decision, ask what evidence would prove you wrong. What facts would change your mind? What data would suggest a different conclusion? Then actively search for this contrary information. Don't just hope to stumble across it. Deliberately seek it out. Read sources that disagree with your political views. Talk to people who made different career choices. Study companies that succeeded with approaches opposite to yours. Research investment strategies that contradict your philosophy. This exposure helps you understand your own thinking better. When evaluating ideas, look for base rates and historical failures. If you're considering starting a business, research how many similar businesses fail and why. If you're making an investment, study what percentage of similar investments lose money. This sobering data balances optimistic projections. Play devil's advocate with your own plans. What could go wrong? What are you overlooking? Where might you be overconfident? This self-criticism feels uncomfortable but improves decision quality. Better to find problems in the planning stage than in the execution stage. Audit commitments for energy. Audit commitments for energy means regularly reviewing your obligations to ensure they still serve your goals and values. Over time, you accumulate commitments. Some were made with good intentions but no longer fit your priorities. Others seemed small initially but became energy drains. Many were never consciously chosen but accepted by default. These misaligned commitments waste your most precious resource, focused energy. List all your current commitments. Work responsibilities. Social obligations. Volunteer activities. Regular meetings. Subscriptions. Memberships. Hobbies. Everything that requires your ongoing time and attention. This comprehensive inventory reveals how scattered your energy might be. Evaluate each commitment against your current priorities and energy levels. Does this obligation still align with your goals? Does it energize or drain you? What would happen if you stopped doing it? Who would be affected and how significantly? Be honest about commitments you maintain from guilt, habit, or social pressure rather than genuine value. Create 3 categories. Keep commitments that align with priorities and energize you. Modify commitments that serve important purposes but could be adjusted for better energy return. Eliminate commitments that no longer serve you or consistently drain energy without compensating benefits. Plan your exits gracefully. Give appropriate notice. Help find replacements when possible. Explain your reasoning honestly but diplomatically. Most people understand that priorities change over time. They respect clear communication about boundaries more than reluctant ongoing participation. Use premortems before projects. Use premortems before projects means imagining failure before it happens to prevent it from occurring. Most project planning focuses on success. Teams discuss what needs to go right. They allocate resources optimistically. They assume things will work as planned. But projects fail for predictable reasons that optimistic planning overlooks. Premortems reveal these failure modes before they become real problems. Gather your team and imagine the project has failed completely. Ask everyone to brainstorm specific reasons why it might have gone wrong. Technical problems. Communication breakdowns. Resource shortages. Scope creep. External changes. Team conflicts. Make the list comprehensive and specific. The more detailed your failure scenarios, the better your prevention strategies. For each potential failure mode, develop specific prevention strategies. If communication breakdown is a risk, establish regular check-ins and clear reporting structures. If scope creep threatens success, create change control processes. If resource shortages could derail progress, identify backup options or reduce scope proactively. Assign ownership for monitoring each risk throughout the project. Someone should watch for early warning signs of each failure mode. This early detection system allows you to address problems before they become crises. Prevention is always easier than recovery. Review your premortem periodically as the project progresses. New risks may emerge. Old risks may become less relevant. Keep your failure prevention strategies current with changing circumstances. This ongoing vigilance dramatically improves project success rates compared to purely optimistic planning. Use deliberate discomfort to grow. Use deliberate discomfort to grow means intentionally seeking challenging situations that expand your capabilities. Comfort feels good but doesn't create development. Growth requires stretching beyond current limits. This means embracing situations that feel awkward, scary, or difficult. The discomfort signals you're entering territory where learning and adaptation occur. Choose discomforts that align with your growth goals. Want to become a better speaker? Join Toastmasters or volunteer for presentations. Want to build physical strength? Exercise at intensities that challenge your current fitness level. Want to improve social skills? Initiate conversations with strangers. Each uncomfortable situation builds specific capabilities. Start small and increase gradually. Massive discomfort can overwhelm and discourage continued effort. Small discomforts build confidence and resilience progressively. Take cold showers before attempting ice baths. Give short presentations before keynoting conferences. Have difficult conversations with friends before confronting difficult bosses. Reframe discomfort as information rather than suffering. Physical discomfort during exercise signals muscles adapting and growing stronger. Social discomfort during networking indicates you're expanding your relationship circle. Professional discomfort during challenging projects means you're developing new skills. This mental reframe makes discomfort more tolerable and purposeful. Track your comfort zone expansion over time. Notice activities that used to feel impossible but now seem routine. Celebrate progress in your capacity to handle difficulty. This recognition reinforces the value of deliberate discomfort and motivates continued growth-oriented challenges. Ask, compared to what? Ask, compared to what, means evaluating everything in context rather than in isolation. Most judgments are meaningless without comparison points. Is this price high or low? Is this performance good or bad? Is this opportunity attractive or unattractive? The answer depends entirely on what you're comparing it to. This question forces you to make comparisons explicit and therefore more accurate. When someone claims something is expensive, ask compared to what? Compared to similar products? Compared to the value it provides? Compared to the cost of not having it? These different comparison points often lead to different conclusions about whether the price is reasonable. Apply this thinking to personal performance evaluations. When you feel you're not progressing fast enough, ask compared to what? Compared to where you started? Compared to others with similar backgrounds? Compared to the difficulty of what you're attempting? Context often reveals that your progress is actually quite good. Use comparative thinking for opportunity evaluation. When considering a job change, don't just evaluate the new position in isolation. Compare it to your current job. Compare it to other available opportunities. Compare it to what might be possible if you stayed and improved your current situation. This comprehensive comparison leads to better decisions. The question works for both positive and negative evaluations. When something seems great, ask what you're comparing it to. Your frame of reference might be too narrow. When something seems terrible, the same question might reveal that it's actually reasonable given the alternatives or circumstances. Celebrate micro wins. Celebrate micro wins means acknowledging small progress to maintain motivation and momentum. Big goals take time to achieve. Months or years can pass between major milestones. Without celebrating smaller victories along the way, you lose motivation. You feel like you're not making progress. You give up before reaching your destination. Micro-win celebration provides the emotional fuel needed for long-term effort. Define what constitutes a micro-win for your goals. Completing daily writing sessions if you're working on a book. Having productive conversations if you're building relationships. Finishing learning modules if you're developing skills. Making these small achievements visible and meaningful sustains effort when larger rewards feel distant. Create simple celebration rituals for micro wins. Check items off lists with satisfying marks. Share progress with supportive friends. Give yourself small rewards like favorite snacks or brief entertainment. Take photos to document progress. These celebrations don't need to be elaborate. They just need to acknowledge forward movement. Track micro wins visually when possible. Use progress bars, calendars, or charts that show accumulating achievement. Visual progress is more motivating than mental tracking alone. Seeing the pattern of small wins builds confidence that larger goals are achievable through continued effort. Balance celebration with continued effort. Micro wins should motivate continued action, not justify stopping. Celebrate the progress, then immediately focus on the next small step. This rhythm of acknowledgement and continued movement maintains momentum toward larger goals while providing emotional satisfaction along the journey. Practice gratitude before challenges. Practice gratitude before challenges means taking time to appreciate what you have before facing difficult situations. Most people dive straight into problems. They focus immediately on what's wrong, what needs fixing, what's causing stress. This negative focus drains energy and narrows thinking. Starting with gratitude shifts your mental state. It reminds you of your resources and support systems. It creates emotional resilience that carries you through difficulties. When you know a challenging conversation is coming, spend a few minutes appreciating the relationship. Remember good times together. Acknowledge their positive qualities. Value the opportunity to address issues rather than avoiding them. This grateful perspective makes you approach the conversation with connection rather than confrontation. Before tackling overwhelming projects, reflect on why you get to do this work. Appreciate the skills you've developed. Acknowledge the trust others have placed in you. Consider the impact you'll have when finished. This gratitude transforms burden into privilege. It energizes rather than depletes your motivation. Use gratitude before smaller daily challenges too. Appreciate having problems that others would envy. Be thankful for the strength to handle difficulties. Value the learning opportunities disguised as obstacles. This perspective shift doesn't eliminate challenges but changes how you experience them. Gratitude practice works because it activates different neural pathways than stress and worry. It floods your system with positive emotions that improve creativity and problem solving. It reminds you of past successes and available resources. It creates psychological safety that allows you to take appropriate risks and make necessary changes. The key is practicing this before you need it. Don't wait until you're overwhelmed to try gratitude. Build the habit during easier times. Then you'll have this mental tool ready when facing genuine difficulties. Look for hidden upside in setbacks. Look for hidden upside in setbacks means searching for unexpected benefits within disappointing outcomes. Every setback contains information. Every failure teaches lessons. Every rejection redirects you toward better opportunities. But these benefits aren't automatic. You have to look for them deliberately. Most people focus only on what went wrong. They miss the hidden gifts that setbacks often contain. When projects fail, examine what you learned about planning, execution, or market conditions. These insights improve future projects. When relationships end, consider what you discovered about compatibility, communication, or your own needs. This knowledge helps you build better relationships going forward. When opportunities disappear, look for how this creates space for different possibilities you hadn't considered. Sometimes setbacks prevent bigger problems you couldn't see at the time. The job you didn't get might have been a poor fit. The investment that fell through might have lost money. The relationship that ended might have become toxic. What felt like failure might actually have been protection from worse outcomes. Setbacks also build resilience and character. They prove you can survive disappointment. They develop your problem-solving abilities. They make you more empathetic to others facing difficulties. These personal growth benefits compound over time into significant advantages. The practice requires patience. Hidden upsides often aren't immediately visible. They emerge weeks, months, or even years later. Keep a journal of setbacks and periodically review them. You'll be surprised how often something that seemed purely negative later contributed to positive outcomes you couldn't have imagined at the time. Speak last in groups. Speak last in groups means waiting to hear others before sharing your own thoughts and opinions. Most people want to speak first. They jump into conversations quickly. They share their ideas immediately. But speaking first biases the entire discussion. Others adjust their contributions based on what you've already said. You hear less diversity of thought. You miss insights that would have emerged if people felt free to share original thinking. When you speak last, you gather more information before forming conclusions. You hear perspectives you might not have considered. You understand the full range of opinions before adding your voice. This additional input often leads to better decisions than jumping in with initial reactions. Speaking last also encourages others to contribute more freely. When authority figures or strong personalities speak early, quieter members often stay silent. They assume their ideas aren't needed or might be wrong. But when you create space by staying quiet initially, more voices join the conversation. Use strategic questions to keep discussions going before you share conclusions. Ask what others think about specific aspects of the topic. Invite quieter members to share their perspectives. Explore different angles before revealing your own position. This facilitates richer conversations that benefit everyone. Speaking last doesn't mean never contributing. It means timing your contributions strategically. After gathering input from others, your eventual comments can synthesize what you've heard, highlight overlooked considerations, or provide direction based on the fuller picture that emerged from listening first. The practice requires confidence and patience. It feels natural to jump in with quick responses. But the information you gain by waiting almost always improves the quality of your eventual contribution. End the day with tomorrow's top 3. End the day with tomorrow's top 3 means identifying your next day's most important tasks before finishing work today. Most people start each day deciding what to do. This decision-making process consumes mental energy when your focus should go toward important work. By choosing tomorrow's priorities today, you eliminate morning decision fatigue. You can start immediately on high-value activities. Choose tasks that align with your bigger goals rather than just urgent items from your inbox. What 3 things would make tomorrow feel successful regardless of what else happens? These might be creative work, important conversations, strategic planning, or skill development. Pick activities that move you forward rather than just keeping you busy. Make your 3 tasks specific enough to start immediately. Instead of work on presentation, write, create outline for quarterly review presentation. Instead of call about project, specify, call Sarah to discuss timeline concerns for website redesign. This specificity eliminates ambiguity that creates procrastination. Write your 3 tasks somewhere you'll see them first thing tomorrow. On a notepad by your computer. In a phone note you check each morning. On a whiteboard in your workspace. This visual reminder jumpstarts productive action without requiring additional decision-making. Review how well your 3-task system is working weekly. Are you choosing the right types of activities? Are your tasks appropriately sized for available time? Are you actually completing them or getting distracted by other priorities? Adjust the system based on what you learn about your patterns and preferences. This simple practice creates momentum that carries throughout the day. Starting with clear priorities helps you maintain focus even when unexpected demands arise. Avoid binary thinking. Avoid binary thinking means resisting the temptation to see situations as having only 2 options when multiple possibilities usually exist. Binary thinking simplifies complex realities into either-or choices. Success or failure. Right or wrong. Good or bad. But most situations contain gradations, alternatives, and combinations that binary thinking misses. This oversimplification leads to poor decisions and unnecessary conflicts. Real life usually offers spectrum thinking rather than binary choices. Instead of success or failure, consider degrees of progress. Instead of right or wrong, look for elements that work and elements that need adjustment. Instead of loving or hating something, Acknowledge mixed feelings that contain both positive and negative elements. Practice finding third options when facing apparent either-or decisions. If you're choosing between job security and creative fulfillment, explore careers that provide both. If you're torn between spending time with family and advancing your career, look for ways to integrate both values. If you're deciding between saving money and enjoying life, find approaches that do both simultaneously. Use both and thinking instead of either-or thinking when possible. You can be confident and humble. You can be ambitious and content. You can be focused and flexible. These combinations are often more realistic and effective than choosing between extremes. Binary thinking often emerges during conflicts or stress when your brain seeks simple solutions to complex problems. Recognize this tendency and deliberately look for additional options. Ask what you might be missing. Consider how seemingly opposite things might both contain truth. This nuanced thinking improves problem solving and reduces unnecessary polarization. Train attention with meditation. Train attention with meditation means using mindfulness practices to strengthen your ability to focus and direct mental energy. Attention is like a muscle. It grows stronger with regular exercise. It grows weaker without use. Modern life provides constant attention training in distraction. Your phone trains you to switch focus rapidly. Social media trains you to seek novelty constantly. News trains you to react emotionally to information. Meditation provides counter-training that builds sustained focus abilities. Start with simple breath awareness meditation. Sit comfortably and focus on your breathing. When your mind wanders to other thoughts, gently return attention to your breath. This isn't about stopping thoughts or achieving special states. It's about noticing when attention drifts and practicing bringing it back to your chosen focus. Even short meditation sessions build attention strength. 5 minutes daily is better than 30 minutes weekly. Consistency matters more than duration. Your brain adapts to whatever you practice regularly. Daily focus training gradually improves your ability to concentrate during work, conversations, and creative activities. Use meditation to understand how your mind works. Notice what types of thoughts pull your attention most strongly. Observe emotional reactions without getting swept away by them. Watch how quickly your mind jumps between topics. This self-awareness helps you recognize and manage attention patterns throughout your day. Advanced practices can include walking meditation, loving-kindness meditation, or body scanning techniques. But simple breath awareness provides most attention training benefits. The key is regular practice rather than complex methods. 10 minutes of daily breath focus will improve your concentration more than occasional longer sessions with elaborate techniques. Assume positive intent in others. Assume positive intent in others means interpreting ambiguous actions and communications in the most charitable way possible. Most human behavior can be explained by multiple motivations. When someone acts in ways that seem problematic, you can assume they're being malicious, incompetent, or selfish. Or you can assume they have positive intentions but poor execution, incomplete information, or different priorities. This assumption choice dramatically affects your relationships and stress levels. Positive intent assumption doesn't mean being naive about genuine bad behavior. Some people do act maliciously or selfishly. But most negative outcomes result from misunderstandings, competing priorities, different communication styles, or good intentions poorly executed. Starting with charitable interpretations gives relationships the best chance to succeed. When someone seems unresponsive to your requests, assume they're busy or overwhelmed rather than ignoring you deliberately. When someone gives feedback that feels harsh, assume they want to help you improve rather than criticize you personally. When someone makes decisions that affect you negatively, assume they're optimizing for factors you might not be aware of. This practice reduces defensive reactions that damage relationships unnecessarily. When you assume positive intent, you respond with curiosity and problem-solving rather than anger and blame. You ask questions to understand rather than making accusations. This approach often reveals the real issues and leads to better solutions. Positive intent assumption also changes how others respond to you. People can sense when you approach them with goodwill versus suspicion. They're more likely to explain their thinking honestly when they don't feel attacked. They're more willing to adjust their behavior when they feel understood rather than judged. Treat rest as a productivity tool. Treat rest as a productivity tool means viewing recovery time as an essential component of peak performance rather than laziness or waste. Most high achievers feel guilty about resting. They see downtime as lost productivity. They push through fatigue believing that more hours always equal better results. But this approach actually reduces effectiveness. Well-rested minds work faster, think more creatively, and make fewer mistakes than exhausted ones. Your brain processes information and forms memories during rest periods. Sleep consolidates learning from the day. Brief breaks during work help you return with fresh perspective on problems. Longer recovery periods prevent burnout that could derail weeks or months of effort. Rest isn't the absence of productivity. It's productivity preparation. Schedule rest intentionally rather than hoping it happens accidentally. Block time for adequate sleep. Plan brief breaks between intensive work sessions. Take real weekends where you disconnect from work concerns. Go on vacations that allow complete mental recovery. Treat these periods as seriously as important meetings because they enable the important meetings to go well. Notice how rest affects your performance quality. Track your energy levels, creativity, and decision-making ability when well-rested versus tired. Most people discover that 8 hours of rested work accomplish more than 12 hours of exhausted work. This recognition makes rest feel strategic rather than indulgent. Different types of rest serve different recovery needs. Physical rest restores your body. Mental rest allows your mind to wander and make new connections. Emotional rest provides space to process feelings and relationships. Social rest gives you time alone to recharge. Build variety into your rest practices. Reframe competition as collaboration. Reframe competition as collaboration means viewing others in your field as potential partners rather than threats to overcome. Traditional competitive thinking assumes limited resources where someone else's success reduces your opportunities. But modern knowledge work often creates expanding opportunities where everyone can benefit simultaneously. Collaborative thinking looks for ways to create mutual value rather than zero-sum battles. Consider how apparent competitors might become collaborators. Other professionals in your field understand your challenges and could provide valuable advice, referrals, or partnership opportunities. Companies in similar markets might share resources, cross-promote products, or tackle industry-wide problems together. Individual contributors with similar skills might form teams that accomplish more than anyone could alone. Look for complementary strengths rather than competing weaknesses. Someone else's expertise in areas where you're weak could benefit both of you. Your strengths in their weak areas create reciprocal value. These complementary relationships often produce better outcomes than either party could achieve independently. Use collaborative language and thinking even in competitive situations. Instead of trying to defeat others, focus on serving customers better. Instead of protecting information defensively, share knowledge that benefits the broader field. Instead of viewing others' success as your failure, look for lessons you can learn from their approaches. This reframe doesn't eliminate healthy competition or mean accepting poor treatment from others. It means approaching professional relationships with abundance thinking rather than scarcity thinking. It means looking for win-win solutions before assuming win-lose dynamics. It means building long-term relationships rather than pursuing short-term victories. Practice intentional breathing. Practice intentional breathing means taking conscious control of your breath to influence your mental and emotional state. Most people breathe automatically without thinking about it. But when you breathe with purpose and attention, you can change how you feel and how clearly you think. Your breathing directly affects your nervous system. Quick, shallow breaths from your chest signal to your brain that something is wrong. This triggers your stress response. Your heart rate increases. Your muscles tense up. Your mind becomes focused on potential threats. Deep, slow breaths from your belly do the opposite. They activate your parasympathetic nervous system. This is your rest and digest mode. Your heart rate slows down. Your muscles relax. Your mind becomes calmer and clearer. The most effective breathing technique is called diaphragmatic breathing. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. When you breathe in, your belly should rise while your chest stays relatively still. This means you're using your diaphragm properly. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Breathe out through your mouth for 6 counts. This simple pattern has immediate effects. After just a few breaths, you'll notice your thoughts becoming less scattered. Your anxiety starts to decrease. Your ability to focus improves. This happens because intentional breathing gives your brain a different message about your current situation. You can use different breathing patterns for different goals. If you need energy, try quick, rhythmic breaths. If you need to calm down, use long, slow exhales. If you need focus, try box breathing where all 4 phases are equal length. The beauty of this hack is that you always have your breath with you. In stressful meetings, you can breathe slowly without anyone noticing. Before important presentations, you can use breathing to center yourself. During difficult conversations, intentional breathing keeps you grounded and thoughtful instead of reactive. Regular practice makes this tool even more powerful. When you practice intentional breathing daily, you train your nervous system to be more resilient. You become better at managing stress. You develop greater emotional control. Your baseline state becomes calmer and more focused. Reward effort, not just results. Reward effort, not just results means celebrating the work you put in rather than only celebrating when things turn out perfectly. This shift in focus changes how your brain approaches challenges and setbacks. It builds resilience and motivation that lasts. When you only reward results, you create several problems. First, you can't always control outcomes. External factors influence results. Other people's decisions affect your success. Market conditions change. Luck plays a role. When you tie your sense of achievement only to results, you become vulnerable to forces outside your control. Second, focusing only on results can make you avoid challenges. If you only feel good when you win, you'll choose easier tasks where winning is guaranteed. You'll stop taking risks. You'll stop growing. Your world becomes smaller because you're protecting your success record instead of expanding your capabilities. Rewarding effort creates different psychology. Effort is always within your control. You can choose to work hard regardless of the outcome. You can choose to persist when things get difficult. You can choose to learn from mistakes. When you celebrate these choices, you reinforce behaviors that lead to long-term success. This doesn't mean results don't matter. Results provide important feedback about whether your efforts are directed effectively. But effort is what you can control directly. Results are what happen when effort meets opportunity and circumstance. In practice, this means acknowledging when you prepare thoroughly for a presentation, even if the audience doesn't respond as hoped. It means celebrating when you stick to your exercise routine for a week, even if the scale doesn't show dramatic change. It means recognizing when you handle a difficult conversation with patience and skill, even if the other person doesn't immediately change their mind. This approach builds what psychologists call a growth mindset. You start seeing challenges as opportunities to develop rather than tests of your worth. You become more willing to attempt difficult things because your self-esteem isn't dependent on perfect performance. Track your efforts alongside your results. Notice when you show up consistently. Acknowledge when you push through discomfort. Celebrate when you choose the harder path that leads to growth. Your brain will start associating these efforts with positive feelings, making them easier to repeat. Recognize patterns in thinking. Recognize patterns in thinking means becoming aware of the repetitive mental habits that shape your decisions and reactions. Your brain runs on autopilot much of the time, using the same thought patterns repeatedly. When you learn to spot these patterns, you gain the power to change them. Everyone has default thinking patterns that developed over time. Some are helpful. Some create problems. Some worked well in the past but don't fit your current situation. Most people never examine these patterns consciously. They just react according to their mental programming without realizing they have choices. Common thinking patterns include catastrophizing, where you immediately imagine worst-case scenarios. Another is black and white thinking, where you see situations as completely good or completely bad with no middle ground. Some people default to people-pleasing thoughts, always considering others' needs before their own. Others default to defensive thinking, immediately looking for threats or criticism. To recognize your patterns, start paying attention to your automatic thoughts. When something unexpected happens, what's your first mental reaction? When someone disagrees with you, where does your mind go first? When you face a new challenge, what assumptions do you make automatically? Notice the situations that trigger predictable thought sequences. Maybe you always assume the worst when someone doesn't respond to your message quickly. Maybe you always doubt your capabilities when facing unfamiliar tasks. Maybe you always focus on potential problems instead of potential opportunities. Physical sensations often accompany thinking patterns. Anxiety in your stomach might signal catastrophic thinking. Tension in your shoulders might indicate defensive thoughts. Heaviness in your chest might accompany self-critical patterns. Your body provides early warning about which mental track you're following. Once you recognize a pattern, you can interrupt it. The moment you notice yourself following a familiar unhelpful thought sequence, pause. Ask yourself if this pattern serves your current situation. Consider what other interpretations or responses might be possible. This awareness takes practice because these patterns operate below conscious attention most of the time. But with patience and observation, you'll start catching them earlier. Eventually, you'll notice them forming before they take over completely. This gives you space to choose different thoughts and reactions. The goal isn't to eliminate all patterns. Some patterns are useful and efficient. The goal is conscious choice about which patterns to follow and when. Collect action triggering cues. Collect action triggering cues means deliberately gathering reminders and environmental signals that prompt you toward behaviors you want. Your environment constantly influences your actions through subtle cues. When you design these cues intentionally, you make good choices easier and automatic. Most people rely on willpower and motivation to drive their behavior. But willpower is limited and motivation fluctuates. Environmental cues work regardless of how you feel. They bypass your conscious decision-making and trigger responses you've programmed in advance. Think about how fast food restaurants use cues to trigger purchases. The smell of French fries activates hunger. Red and yellow colors create urgency. Pictures of food make your mouth water. These businesses understand that environment shapes behavior more powerfully than conscious intention. You can design positive cues for yourself with the same precision. If you want to drink more water, place a full water bottle where you'll see it first thing each morning. The visual cue triggers the action without requiring you to remember or decide. If you want to exercise regularly, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Getting dressed becomes the cue that starts your exercise routine. Digital cues work too. Set phone reminders that pop up at optimal times. Create calendar blocks for important activities. Use apps that send encouraging messages when you need motivation. Design your digital environment to support your goals rather than distract from them. The key is making cues obvious and immediate. Hidden reminders don't work. Complicated systems fall apart. The best cues are simple, visible, and directly connected to the action you want to take. Chain your desired actions to existing habits whenever possible. If you already drink coffee every morning, use that as a cue to review your daily priorities. If you always check your phone before bed, use that moment to set out tomorrow's clothes. Existing habits become reliable triggers for new behaviors. Remove cues that trigger unwanted behaviors. If seeing your phone makes you scroll mindlessly, keep it in another room while working. If having snack foods visible makes you eat them impulsively, store them in opaque containers. Design friction for bad habits and ease for good ones. Start by collecting cues for one specific behavior you want to improve. Notice what environmental factors make that behavior more or less likely. Then deliberately design your space to include more positive triggers. Limit input before creative work. Limit input before creative work means deliberately reducing the amount of information you consume before engaging in creative tasks. Most people think creativity requires maximum input and inspiration. But too much input actually clutters your mental space and makes original thinking harder. Your brain needs emptiness to fill with new ideas. When you consume lots of content before creating, several things happen that hurt creativity. First, other people's ideas occupy your mental bandwidth. Their approaches and solutions crowd out your own unique perspectives. You start thinking in their frameworks instead of developing your own. Second, consuming content shifts your brain into reception mode rather than generation mode. Reading, watching, and listening are passive activities. Creating requires active, generative thinking. These different mental modes don't switch easily. If you spend the morning consuming content, your afternoon creativity will feel forced and derivative. Third, information overload creates decision paralysis. When you've seen too many examples and approaches, you become overwhelmed by options. You second-guess your instincts. You worry about whether your ideas are good enough compared to everything you've consumed. This inner critic kills creative flow before it starts. The solution is protecting your creative time with an information diet. Before writing, designing, problem-solving, or any creative work, avoid reading articles, watching videos, checking social media, or consuming content related to your project. Give your mind space to generate rather than imitate. This doesn't mean avoiding research entirely. Learning and input are important parts of the creative process. But timing matters enormously. Do your research and information gathering in separate sessions from your creative work. Let information settle and integrate before you try to create something new. Many successful creators have morning routines that protect their creative time from input. They write, design, or compose before checking email, reading news, or consuming any external content. This ensures their ideas emerge from internal inspiration rather than external influence. Start your creative sessions with a few minutes of mental clearing. Sit quietly. Let your thoughts settle. Allow ideas to surface naturally without forcing them. This transition time helps you shift from consumption mode to creation mode. The goal is not to create in complete isolation forever. The goal is to protect the initial creative spark from being overwhelmed by outside voices. Once you have a foundation of your own ideas, you can engage with external input more selectively and purposefully. Use chunking to remember more. Use chunking to remember more means breaking large amounts of information into smaller, organized groups that your brain can process more easily. Your working memory can only hold a limited number of items at once, typically between 5 and 9 pieces of information. But chunking allows you to pack more meaning into each piece, dramatically expanding what you can remember and work with mentally. Think about how you remember phone numbers. Instead of trying to memorize 10 random digits, you group them into chunks like area code, first 3 digits, and last 4 digits. This turns 10 separate items into 3 meaningful groups. Your brain handles 3 chunks much more easily than 10 individual numbers. The same principle works for any complex information. Instead of trying to remember a long list of random facts, organize them into categories or patterns. Instead of memorizing individual steps in a process, group related steps together into phases. Instead of learning isolated concepts, connect them into larger frameworks that show relationships. Chunking works because it takes advantage of how your brain naturally organizes information. Your mind looks for patterns, connections, and meaningful groupings automatically. When you chunk information deliberately, you're working with your brain's preferences rather than against them. Effective chunking requires finding meaningful connections between pieces of information. Random groupings don't help much. But when you group information based on function, theme, sequence, or logical relationship, each chunk becomes easier to remember because it has internal coherence. Visual chunking can be especially powerful. Instead of trying to remember a long written list, create a mental image that groups related items together. Use spatial relationships to reinforce logical relationships. Imagine walking through a familiar location and placing chunks of information in different rooms or areas. You can also use hierarchical chunking, where you create chunks within chunks. Start with broad categories, then break each category into subcategories, then break subcategories into specific items. This creates a nested structure that makes large amounts of information manageable. Chunking helps with learning new skills too. Instead of trying to master everything at once, break complex abilities into component skills. Practice related components together until they become automatic chunks. Then combine chunks into larger, more sophisticated performances. The key is experimentation. Different types of information chunk better in different ways. Some information groups well by topic. Some groups well by sequence. Some groups well by similarity. Pay attention to what chunking strategies work best for different types of material you need to remember. Anchor new habits to existing routines. Anchor new habits to existing routines means attaching something new you want to do to something you already do automatically. Think of it like building a bridge between what you already know and what you want to learn. Your brain loves patterns and shortcuts. When you connect a new habit to an old one, you use the power of your existing routine to pull the new behavior along. For example, if you want to start taking vitamins, you might decide to take them right after you brush your teeth in the morning. Brushing teeth is already automatic for you. You don't have to think about it or remember it. So when you link vitamin taking to toothbrushing, the vitamin becomes automatic too. This works because your brain has already created strong neural pathways for your existing habits. These pathways are like well-worn roads in your mind. When you attach a new habit to an old one, you're essentially adding a small detour to a road you already travel every day. The key is to choose an existing routine that happens at the right time and place for your new habit. The existing routine becomes your trigger or cue. After I do X, I will do Y. This formula helps you remember the new behavior without relying on willpower or motivation. Many people fail to build new habits because they try to create them in isolation. They rely on memory and motivation alone. But when you anchor new habits to existing routines, you create a system that works even when you're tired, busy, or distracted. The old habit naturally reminds you to do the new one. Rehearse success in your mind before acting. Rehearse success in your mind before acting means practicing important situations in your imagination before they happen in real life. This mental rehearsal is like having a dress rehearsal before the actual performance. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one in many ways. When you visualize yourself succeeding at something, you create neural pathways in your brain. These pathways help you perform better when the real situation arrives. Athletes use this technique constantly. They see themselves making the perfect shot, running the perfect race, or executing the perfect move. This mental practice improves their actual physical performance. The process works by reducing anxiety and increasing confidence. When you have mentally walked through a challenging situation many times, it feels familiar rather than scary. Your brain has already solved the problems and overcome the obstacles in simulation. This preparation gives you a roadmap for success. For example, before a job interview, you might visualize yourself walking into the room confidently, shaking hands firmly, answering questions clearly, and leaving with a positive impression. You imagine specific details like what you will wear, how you will sit, and what you will say. This mental rehearsal helps you perform more naturally and confidently in the actual interview. The key is to make your visualization as detailed and realistic as possible. Include sensory details like sounds, smells, and physical sensations. See yourself handling both easy parts and challenging moments successfully. This mental practice builds muscle memory in your brain, creating automatic responses for success. Break big goals into tiny first steps. Break big goals into tiny first steps means taking something that feels overwhelming and dividing it into pieces so small that they seem almost too easy to do. This approach works because our brains often resist big changes but welcome small ones. When a goal feels massive, we tend to procrastinate or give up before we start. The magic happens when you make the first step so small that it feels silly not to do it. If you want to write a book, your first step might be to write one sentence. If you want to get fit, your first step might be to put on your workout shoes. If you want to learn a language, your first step might be to learn one word. These tiny steps overcome the psychological barriers that stop us from starting. Big goals create mental resistance because they require significant time, energy, and commitment. Our brains see them as threats to our comfort and routine. But tiny steps fly under the radar of this resistance system. Each small step builds momentum and confidence. Success breeds success. When you complete that first tiny step, you feel accomplished rather than overwhelmed. This positive feeling motivates you to take the next small step, then the next one. Before you know it, you have made significant progress toward your big goal. The key is to focus only on the very next small step, not the entire journey. Don't worry about step 10 when you haven't taken step 1 yet. This keeps you in the present moment and prevents overwhelm. Each tiny step is a victory that moves you forward. Over time, these small victories accumulate into major achievements. Use time blocking to protect focus. Use time blocking to protect focus means scheduling specific blocks of time for specific activities, like creating walls around your attention. Instead of keeping a simple to-do list, you assign each task to a particular time slot on your calendar. This transforms your intentions into concrete commitments. Time blocking works because it forces you to be realistic about how long things actually take. When you just make a list, you often underestimate time requirements. But when you have to fit tasks into actual time slots, you become more accurate about planning. You also become more selective about what deserves your time. The power of time blocking lies in protection. When you have blocked time for important work, you can say no to interruptions and distractions. Your calendar becomes a shield that guards your focus. People respect scheduled meetings with others, so why not respect scheduled meetings with yourself? This method also prevents the mental energy drain of constantly deciding what to do next. Decision fatigue is real and exhausting. When you have already decided what to work on and when, you eliminate hundreds of small decisions throughout the day. Your mental energy stays focused on actually doing the work rather than figuring out what work to do. Time blocking helps you balance different areas of your life too. You can block time for work, exercise, family, learning, and relaxation. This ensures that important things don't get squeezed out by urgent things. You create space for what matters most instead of just reacting to whatever demands your attention loudest. Adopt the who not how mindset. Adopt the who not how mindset means asking who can help you achieve something instead of asking how you can do it yourself. This shifts your thinking from trying to figure everything out alone to finding people who already know what you need to learn. It's about leveraging other people's expertise, time, and resources instead of trying to become an expert at everything. Most people get stuck asking, how can I do this? This question leads to research, learning curves, trial and error, and often frustration. The who question leads to delegation, collaboration, and faster results. Instead of spending months learning web design, you find someone who already knows it. Instead of struggling with taxes, you find an accountant. This mindset recognizes that your time and energy are limited and valuable. Every hour you spend learning something outside your expertise is an hour you can't spend on your strengths. By finding the right who, you can focus on what you do best while others handle what they do best. The who not how approach also opens up possibilities you might never have considered. Other people have different perspectives, networks, and resources. They might know shortcuts, tools, or methods that would take you years to discover on your own. They can help you avoid common mistakes and accelerate your progress. This doesn't mean you never learn new things yourself. It means you become strategic about what to learn versus what to delegate. You focus your learning energy on skills that align with your goals and strengths. For everything else, you find the right people to help you succeed faster and more efficiently. Limit choices to conserve willpower. Limit choices to conserve willpower means reducing the number of decisions you make each day to save mental energy for what matters most. Your willpower is like a battery that gets drained with every choice you make. When you face too many decisions, even small ones, you experience decision fatigue. This makes you more likely to make poor choices or avoid making important decisions altogether. Think about successful people like Steve Jobs, who wore the same black turtleneck every day. He wasn't being boring. He was being smart. By eliminating the daily choice of what to wear, he preserved mental energy for more important decisions about Apple's future. You can apply this principle in many areas of your life. Plan your meals for the week so you don't decide what to eat every day. Create a morning routine that runs on autopilot. Choose a few go-to outfits instead of staring at your closet each morning. Set up automatic payments for bills so you don't have to think about them. The goal is not to eliminate all choices but to eliminate unnecessary ones. Save your decision-making power for choices that truly impact your goals and values. When you reduce trivial decisions, you have more mental clarity and energy for creative thinking, problem-solving, and important life choices. This strategy is especially powerful for habits you want to maintain. Instead of deciding whether to exercise each day, you eliminate the choice by exercising at the same time every day. The routine becomes automatic, requiring no willpower to maintain. Your energy stays available for other challenges and opportunities. Set artificial scarcity for creativity. Set artificial scarcity for creativity means purposely limiting your resources, time, or options to force innovative solutions. When everything is available and unlimited, we often become paralyzed by possibilities or default to obvious solutions. But when we face constraints, our brains become more creative and resourceful. This principle works because limitations force us to think differently. When you have unlimited time for a project, you might procrastinate or overthink it. But when you have only 2 hours, you focus on what's truly essential. When you have a huge budget, you might choose expensive solutions. But with a small budget, you find clever, cost-effective approaches. Artists have used this technique for centuries. Poets create beautiful sonnets within the strict constraints of 14 lines and specific rhyme schemes. Musicians compose incredible songs using only 3 chords. These limitations don't restrict creativity. They channel it into more focused and often more powerful directions. You can create artificial scarcity in many ways. Set tight deadlines for projects even when you have more time available. Give yourself a smaller budget than necessary to force creative solutions. Limit the tools or materials you can use. Restrict the number of words in your writing or slides in your presentation. The key is making the constraints challenging but not impossible. Too much scarcity creates stress and poor results. The right amount creates what psychologists call productive struggle. Your brain works harder and finds connections it would miss under normal conditions. This often leads to breakthrough ideas and innovative solutions. Use environment design to nudge behavior. Use environment design to nudge behavior means changing your physical surroundings to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. Your environment constantly influences your actions, often without you realizing it. By intentionally designing your space, you can guide yourself toward better behaviors automatically. This works because willpower is unreliable, but environment is constant. You might forget to take vitamins, but if you put them next to your coffee maker, you'll see them every morning. You might struggle to avoid junk food, but if you don't buy it and keep it in your house, the struggle disappears. The principle applies to all areas of life. If you want to read more, put books in every room and hide the TV remote. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to eat healthier, put fruits and vegetables at eye level in your refrigerator and bury the junk food in hard-to-reach places. Environment design works with both physical and digital spaces. Organize your phone so productive apps are on the home screen and distracting apps are buried in folders. Set up your workspace so important projects are visible and accessible. Remove temptations and obstacles from your path to success. The beauty of environment design is that it works even when you're tired, stressed, or unmotivated. Your surroundings do the work for you. Instead of relying on memory and discipline, you create systems that guide you naturally toward your goals. Good environment design makes the right choice the obvious choice. Track habits visually for motivation. Track habits visually for motivation means creating a visual representation of your progress that you can see every day. This could be a simple calendar where you mark X's for completed habits, a chart showing your streak, or any visual system that shows your consistency over time. The visual element transforms abstract progress into concrete evidence of your efforts. Visual tracking works because it provides immediate feedback and satisfaction. When you complete a habit and mark it on your tracker, you get a small hit of accomplishment. This positive reinforcement encourages you to continue. Your brain loves to see patterns and progress, and visual tracking makes both clearly visible. The power of visual tracking also comes from the pain of breaking a streak. Once you have several X's in a row, you don't want to break the chain. This creates positive pressure to maintain consistency. You're not just doing the habit for long-term benefits anymore. You're doing it to keep your visual streak alive. Visual tracking helps you spot patterns and problems too. You might notice you always skip your habit on Tuesdays or during stressful weeks. This awareness helps you adjust your approach and plan for challenges. The visual data becomes a tool for improvement, not just measurement. Keep your tracking system simple and visible. Complex systems often get abandoned. A basic calendar or chart that you see every day works better than a sophisticated app you forget to check. The goal is consistency in tracking, which supports consistency in the habit itself. Make marking your progress as easy and satisfying as possible. Create a personal, stop doing list. Create a personal, stop doing list means identifying activities, commitments, or behaviors that drain your energy without adding value to your life. While most people focus on what to start doing, successful people also focus on what to stop doing. This list helps you eliminate what's holding you back so you can focus on what moves you forward. Your stop doing list might include obvious time wasters like excessive social media scrolling or watching too much television. But it should also include less obvious energy drains like saying yes to every request, checking email constantly, or staying in relationships that don't serve you. Sometimes good activities need to stop so great activities have room to grow. The challenge with stopping behaviors is that many of them feel productive or necessary. You might think you need to attend every meeting, answer every email immediately, or help everyone who asks. But these activities often create the illusion of productivity while preventing you from focusing on your most important work. Creating this list requires honest self-reflection. Ask yourself what activities make you feel drained rather than energized. What commitments do you dread? What habits waste your time or attention? What relationships consistently take more than they give? These questions help you identify candidates for your stop doing list. Start small when implementing your list. Pick 1 or 2 items to eliminate first. Practice saying no to new requests that fit your stop doing criteria. Replace stopped behaviors with better alternatives. The goal is not to do less for the sake of doing less, but to create space for activities that truly matter to your goals and well-being. Journal to clear mental clutter. Journal to clear mental clutter means writing down your thoughts, worries, and ideas to free up mental space and gain clarity. Your mind is like a computer with too many browser tabs open. When thoughts keep cycling through your head, they consume mental processing power. Writing them down is like closing those tabs and freeing up memory for more important tasks. Mental clutter creates stress and reduces focus. When you have dozens of thoughts competing for attention, you cannot think clearly about any single issue. Your brain keeps switching between concerns about work, relationships, finances, and daily tasks. This constant mental juggling is exhausting and ineffective. Journaling works because it moves thoughts from your internal loop to external storage. Once something is written down, your brain can stop holding on to it. You no longer need to remember that important idea or keep rehearsing that conversation. The paper becomes your external memory, allowing your mind to relax and focus on the present moment. The process of writing also helps you organize and understand your thoughts better. When ideas are just floating in your head, they often feel more overwhelming than they actually are. Writing forces you to put thoughts into words and sentences. This structure helps you see patterns, identify real problems, and separate important concerns from unnecessary worry. You do not need perfect grammar or complete sentences when journaling for mental clarity. Stream of consciousness writing works perfectly. Just dump everything from your mind onto paper without editing or judging. Set a timer for 10 or 15 minutes and write continuously. Do not stop to think about what to write next. Let your thoughts flow naturally onto the page. Regular journaling creates a habit of mental housekeeping. Just as you clean your physical space regularly, you can clean your mental space through writing. This practice prevents thoughts from building up into overwhelming mental clutter. You develop the skill of quickly identifying and clearing mental noise so you can focus on what truly matters. Ask, is this essential? Before acting. Ask, is this essential? Before acting means pausing before every decision or commitment to determine if it truly serves your most important goals and values. This simple question acts as a filter that helps you focus on what matters most while eliminating activities that waste your time and energy. Most people say yes to too many things and end up feeling busy but not productive. The question forces you to think about opportunity cost. Every yes to one thing is automatically a no to something else. When you agree to attend another meeting, you cannot use that time for strategic thinking. When you take on another project, you have less energy for your core responsibilities. The essential question helps you choose wisely between competing options. This approach requires you to know what is truly important to you. You cannot determine if something is essential without clear priorities and values. Spend time identifying your most important goals in different areas of life. What outcomes do you want to achieve this year? What activities directly contribute to those outcomes? What relationships matter most to you? These answers become your criteria for evaluation. The power of this question lies in its simplicity and universality. You can apply it to any decision, large or small. Should you attend this social event? Is this email worth responding to immediately? Should you take on this new responsibility? The essential question cuts through complexity and social pressure to reveal what truly deserves your attention. Practice using this question consistently for 1 week and notice the difference. You will likely discover that many activities you thought were important are actually optional. You will start saying no more often without feeling guilty. Your schedule will become less cluttered and more aligned with your priorities. You will feel more focused and less overwhelmed because you are investing your limited time and energy in activities that actually matter. Use silence to strengthen presence. Use silence to strengthen presence means intentionally incorporating quiet moments into your conversations and daily life to become more aware, thoughtful, and influential. In our noise-filled world, silence has become a superpower. Most people feel uncomfortable with quiet moments and rush to fill them with words or distractions. When you embrace silence, you stand out and command attention. Silence creates space for deeper thinking and better responses. When someone asks you a question or presents a problem, your first instinct might be to respond immediately. But taking a few seconds of quiet thought often leads to much better answers. Silence allows you to process information fully before reacting. This prevents you from saying something you might regret and helps you respond more thoughtfully. In conversations, silence makes you a better listener and more interesting speaker. When you resist the urge to immediately respond or interrupt, you hear what people are really saying. You notice emotions behind their words and understand their true concerns. People feel heard and valued when you give them space to express themselves completely. Paradoxically, talking less often makes you more influential in discussions. Silence also strengthens your presence and confidence. People who can sit comfortably in quiet moments appear more self-assured and centered. They do not need constant stimulation or validation from others. This inner calm is attractive and commands respect. Others naturally look to quiet, confident people for leadership and guidance during difficult situations. You can practice using silence in many ways. Pause for 3 seconds before answering important questions. Sit quietly for 5 minutes each morning before starting your day. During meetings, let others finish speaking completely before you respond. Take walks without music or podcasts. These small practices build your comfort with silence and strengthen your presence over time. Treat problems as experiments. Treat problems as experiments means approaching challenges with curiosity and a willingness to test different solutions rather than feeling overwhelmed or defeated. This mindset shift transforms problems from threats into opportunities for learning and growth. Instead of saying, "This is impossible," or "I don't know what to do," you ask, "What if I tried this approach?" or "How can I test this hypothesis?" The experimental mindset removes the pressure to find the perfect solution immediately. Traditional problem solving often creates anxiety because you feel like you must know the answer before you begin. But experiments are designed to gather information and test possibilities. You expect some experiments to fail, and failure becomes valuable data rather than personal defeat. Scientists use experiments to understand the world around them. They form hypotheses, test them systematically, and learn from the results regardless of the outcome. You can apply this same methodology to personal and professional challenges. Want to improve your productivity? Try different morning routines and measure the results. Struggling with a difficult relationship? Experiment with different communication approaches and observe the responses. This approach encourages action over endless analysis. Instead of spending weeks researching the theoretically best solution, you quickly test practical options. You learn faster through doing rather than thinking. Each experiment provides real-world feedback that guides your next steps. Even failed experiments eliminate options and point you toward better approaches. The experimental mindset also reduces emotional attachment to specific solutions. When you invest heavily in one approach, you become blind to alternatives and resistant to changing course. But when you view each attempt as an experiment, you remain flexible and objective. You can pivot quickly when results show a different path might work better. This adaptability leads to faster problem solving and less frustration. Borrow confidence from past wins. Borrow confidence from past wins means drawing strength and self-assurance from previous successes when facing new challenges. Your past achievements are proof of your capabilities and resilience. When you feel uncertain or afraid about a current situation, you can mentally revisit times when you overcame difficulties or accomplished something meaningful. These memories become a source of borrowed confidence for present challenges. This technique works because confidence is often situational and temporary. You might feel confident about your cooking skills but nervous about public speaking. You might feel secure in familiar environments but anxious in new settings. By connecting current challenges to past successes, you remind your brain that you have already demonstrated the ability to succeed under pressure. The key is identifying relevant parallels between past wins and current challenges. If you are nervous about a job interview, remember other times you successfully presented yourself to new people. If you are afraid of starting a new project, recall previous projects you completed despite initial uncertainty. The specific skills might be different, but the underlying capabilities of learning, adapting, and persevering remain the same. Create a mental library of your greatest hits. Write down significant accomplishments, moments when you overcame fear, times when you learned something difficult, and situations where you showed resilience. Include both big achievements and small victories. Sometimes the confidence you need comes from remembering how you handled a difficult conversation or learned a new software program. Practice accessing this confidence library regularly, not just during challenging moments. The more you reinforce these positive memories, the more readily available they become when you need them. You can literally change your posture, breathing, and energy by recalling moments of past success. Your body remembers what confidence feels like and can recreate that state when you direct your mind toward empowering memories. Apply next best move thinking. Apply next best move thinking means focusing on the single most important action you can take right now, instead of getting overwhelmed by everything you need to accomplish. This approach comes from chess strategy, where players don't try to see the entire game ahead. They identify the strongest move available in the current position. This mental framework works because our brains struggle with too many options. When faced with multiple tasks or decisions, we often freeze or procrastinate. The next best move cuts through this paralysis. It asks one simple question. What is the most valuable thing I can do in the next hour? The power lies in its simplicity. You don't need perfect information. You don't need to solve everything at once. You just need to identify what moves you forward most effectively. This could be making that important phone call, writing the first paragraph of a report, or having a crucial conversation you've been avoiding. This thinking works especially well during stressful periods, when everything feels urgent and important. Instead of spinning your wheels trying to do everything, you pause and identify your next best move. Then you execute it with full focus. The approach creates momentum. Each good move makes the next decision clearer. Small wins build confidence. Progress becomes visible and measurable. You start feeling in control again. Professional athletes use this constantly. They don't think about winning the entire game. They focus on the next play, the next shot, the next point. This keeps them present and reduces anxiety about outcomes they can't control. The key is being honest about what truly matters most. Not what feels urgent because of external pressure. Not what's easiest to check off your list. But what genuinely moves you toward your most important goals. This requires stepping back from the noise. Looking at your situation objectively. Asking yourself what would make the biggest positive difference. Then committing fully to that action before moving to the next decision. Stand up for quick clarity boosts. Stand up for quick clarity boosts means using the simple physical act of standing to reset your mental state. When you feel stuck, confused, or mentally foggy, getting up from your chair triggers immediate changes in your brain and body. This isn't just about stretching tired muscles. It's about activating a biological reset button. Sitting for long periods reduces blood flow to your brain. Your thinking becomes sluggish. Ideas don't flow as easily. Problems seem more complicated than they actually are. Standing up reverses this process quickly. Fresh blood and oxygen reach your brain. Your perspective literally changes as you see your environment from a different angle. This technique works because of how our brains process information. When we're stuck in one position, our thoughts often get stuck too. Physical movement breaks these mental loops. Standing engages different neural pathways. It signals to your brain that it's time for a change. The clarity boost happens almost immediately. Within seconds of standing, your heart rate increases slightly. Your breathing deepens naturally. Your posture straightens. These physical changes send signals to your brain that increase alertness and focus. Many successful people use this instinctively. They pace during phone calls. Stand during important conversations. Take walking meetings. They understand that movement enhances thinking. That stillness can lead to mental stagnation. The technique is particularly powerful during decision-making. When you're weighing options or trying to solve problems. Standing up gives you fresh perspective. Literally and figuratively. You see your notes from above. Your workspace from a new angle. This shift often reveals solutions that weren't visible while sitting. You can enhance this further by stepping away from your desk. looking out a window, taking a few deep breaths. These additions amplify the clarity effect. They create even more distance from whatever was clouding your thinking. The beauty of this approach is its accessibility. You don't need special equipment or training. You don't need to leave your office or interrupt others. Simply standing up is available anytime you need mental refreshment. Smart professionals build this into their routines. They stand during certain types of phone calls. Stand while reading important documents. Stand when reviewing their daily priorities. This keeps their minds sharp throughout the day. Rehearse difficult conversations in advance. Rehearse difficult conversations in advance means practicing important discussions before they happen. Most people wing it when facing challenging conversations. They hope the right words will come naturally. This approach rarely works well. Instead, thoughtful preparation dramatically improves outcomes. Difficult conversations include asking for raises, addressing performance issues with team members, having tough talks with family members, delivering bad news to clients, negotiating important agreements. These moments are too important to leave to chance. Rehearsal works because it reduces anxiety and increases confidence. When you've practiced your key points, when you've anticipated likely responses, the actual conversation feels more manageable. You're not scrambling for words or getting caught off guard. The process starts with identifying your core message. What exactly do you need to communicate? What outcome do you want? Then you craft your opening statement. This sets the tone for everything that follows. You practice saying it until it feels natural and confident. Next, you anticipate the other person's likely reactions. What objections might they raise? What questions will they ask? How might they push back? For each possibility, you prepare thoughtful responses. This doesn't mean scripting every word. It means having a framework ready. You also prepare for emotional moments. Difficult conversations often trigger strong feelings. By rehearsing, you can plan how to stay calm and focused. You identify phrases that keep discussions productive. You practice techniques for de-escalating tension. The rehearsal can happen in your mind, in front of a mirror, or with a trusted friend playing the other role. Each method has benefits. Mental rehearsal is always available. Mirror practice lets you see your body language. Role-playing with others reveals blind spots. Many successful leaders rehearse constantly. Before board meetings. Before difficult employee conversations. Before media interviews. They understand that preparation isn't weakness. It's professionalism. It shows respect for the other person and the importance of the topic. The key is balancing preparation with authenticity. You want to be ready without sounding robotic. You want key points planned without losing spontaneity. This balance comes with practice. Use morning energy for deep work. Use morning energy for deep work means scheduling your most important tasks during the first few hours after waking. Your brain operates at peak performance during this time. Your willpower is strongest. Your focus is sharpest. This is when you should tackle work that requires serious mental effort. Most people waste their morning energy on email and routine tasks. They save important projects for later in the day, when their mental resources are depleted. This backwards approach undermines their best work. It guarantees that challenging tasks get less than your best effort. Morning energy comes from how sleep restores your brain. During the night, your mind processes information, clears mental clutter, rebuilds the neurochemicals needed for focus and decision-making. You wake up with a fully charged mental battery. This energy depletes throughout the day. Every decision you make, every email you read, every distraction you handle. These activities drain your cognitive resources. By afternoon, you're running on mental fumes. This is exactly when most people try to do their hardest work. Deep work includes tasks that require sustained concentration. Writing important documents. Solving complex problems. Learning new skills. Strategic planning. Creative projects. These activities need your brain at full power. They deserve your morning energy. The benefits compound over time. When you consistently give important work your best hours, quality improves dramatically. You complete projects faster. You make fewer mistakes. You produce more innovative solutions. This requires protecting your morning time. Checking email immediately after waking destroys this advantage. Social media consumption fragments your attention. Meeting scheduling kills focused work time. You must guard these precious hours carefully. The optimal approach starts before you sleep. Prepare for the next day's deep work session. Clear your workspace. Gather needed materials. Define specific goals. This removes friction from your morning routine. You can start meaningful work immediately. Successful writers, scientists, and executives follow this pattern. They wake early. They work on important projects first. They handle routine tasks later. They understand that peak performance has a schedule. And that schedule starts in the morning. End meetings with clear owners and deadlines. End meetings with clear owners and deadlines means never leaving a meeting without specific people assigned to specific tasks with specific due dates. Most meetings end with vague agreements and good intentions. People nod and say they'll follow up. But without clear accountability, nothing happens. This simple practice transforms meeting effectiveness immediately. When someone knows they own a specific task. When everyone knows the deadline. Action becomes inevitable. Accountability becomes automatic. Progress happens between meetings instead of just during meetings. The problem with typical meeting endings is assumption. Everyone assumes someone else will handle important items. Everyone thinks the timeline is flexible. Everyone believes follow-up will happen naturally. These assumptions kill productivity and frustrate team members. Clear ownership means naming specific individuals. Not departments or teams. Not someone should, or we need to. Actual names attached to actual responsibilities. This eliminates confusion about who does what. It prevents tasks from falling through cracks. Deadlines must be realistic and specific. Not soon, or ASAP, or by the end of the month. Exact dates and times when possible. This creates urgency and allows for proper planning. It makes progress measurable and accountability clear. The process happens in the final 5 minutes of every meeting. You review what was discussed. You identify action items that emerged. For each item, you ask 2 questions. Who will own this? When will it be complete? You don't move to the next item until both questions have specific answers. This might feel awkward at first. Some people resist being pinned down to commitments. But this discomfort is exactly why the practice works. It forces honest conversations about capacity and priorities. It prevents overcommitment and underdelivery. Smart meeting leaders build this into their standard agenda. They allocate time for the accountability review. They document assignments where everyone can see them. They send follow-up emails confirming who owns what by when. The benefits extend beyond individual meetings. Teams develop a culture of reliability. People come to meetings better prepared because they know they'll leave with assignments. Project momentum increases because nothing stalls waiting for unclear next steps. Use negative visualization for gratitude. Use negative visualization for gratitude means deliberately imagining the loss of things you currently have. This ancient Stoic practice involves mentally removing good things from your life temporarily. Your health. Your relationships. Your job. Your home. This mental exercise isn't about being pessimistic. It's about awakening genuine appreciation for what you already possess. Most people take their blessings for granted. You assume your loved ones will always be there. You expect your abilities to remain constant. You treat everyday comforts as permanent fixtures. This assumption breeds entitlement and reduces happiness. Negative visualization breaks this pattern by showing you how much you actually have. The practice works because contrast creates clarity. When you imagine losing something important, You immediately recognize its true value. That cup of coffee becomes a small luxury. That text from a friend becomes a precious connection. That working body becomes an incredible gift. The technique is simple but powerful. Spend 5 minutes imagining specific losses. Picture your morning routine without your current home. Imagine your day without your closest relationships. Visualize your work life without your current abilities. Feel the absence deeply. Then open your eyes and notice what surrounds you. This isn't about dwelling on disasters or creating anxiety. It's about perspective adjustment. When you temporarily remove something mentally, you see it clearly. When you return to reality, colors seem brighter. Experiences feel richer. Ordinary moments reveal their hidden value. Ancient philosophers used this daily. Marcus Aurelius wrote about imagining the loss of everything he valued. Not to torture himself, but to maintain gratitude and reduce attachment to outcomes beyond his control. He understood that appreciation requires conscious effort. Modern research confirms this wisdom. People who practice gratitude exercises report higher life satisfaction, better relationships, improved physical health, reduced anxiety and depression. Negative visualization is one of the most effective gratitude techniques available. The key is balance. You don't want to create genuine fear or paranoia. You want healthy perspective. The goal is appreciation, not anxiety. You imagine loss briefly, then return to reality with fresh eyes and renewed gratitude. Regular practice changes your baseline happiness. You stop waiting for more to feel content. You find richness in what you already have. Problems feel smaller when you remember how much is going right. Ask, what would this look like if easy? Ask, what would this look like if easy, means challenging yourself to find simpler approaches to complex problems. Most people make tasks harder than necessary. They add unnecessary steps. They overcomplicate solutions. They assume difficulty means thoroughness. This question cuts through that complexity and reveals elegant alternatives. The question works because it shifts your mental framework. Instead of accepting that something must be hard, you assume there might be an easier way. This assumption opens your mind to possibilities you would otherwise ignore. It forces creative thinking and challenges conventional approaches. Many breakthrough innovations came from this type of thinking. Someone looked at a complicated process and asked how to make it simpler. They questioned assumptions everyone else accepted. They found ways to remove steps instead of adding them. They discovered that easier often means better. The technique applies to any situation. Stuck on a work project? Ask what the easy version looks like. Struggling with a personal goal? Imagine the path of least resistance. Facing relationship challenges? Consider the simplest solution that could work. Often the easy approach is the right approach. Complexity frequently masks unclear thinking. When you can't explain something simply, you probably don't understand it well enough. When a solution requires many moving parts, you might be solving the wrong problem. This doesn't mean taking shortcuts or compromising quality. It means finding the most direct path to your desired outcome. It means eliminating unnecessary friction. It means working smarter rather than harder. The question reveals hidden assumptions about how things should be done. Maybe you don't need that lengthy proposal. Maybe the meeting could be an email. Maybe the complex system could be a simple checklist. Maybe the difficult conversation could be straightforward and honest. Successful entrepreneurs use this thinking constantly. They look for ways to serve customers with less effort and expense. They streamline operations. They remove unnecessary features. They understand that simple solutions often scale better and last longer. The key is being genuinely open to easier alternatives. Don't dismiss options because they seem too simple. Don't assume complex problems require complex solutions. Sometimes the most elegant answer is also the most obvious one. Practice this question regularly. Apply it to your daily routines, your work processes, your personal challenges. You'll be surprised how often there's a much easier way that you simply hadn't considered. Set micro-deadlines to beat procrastination. Set micro-deadlines to beat procrastination means breaking large tasks into tiny pieces with immediate due dates. Instead of having one deadline for an entire project, you create multiple small deadlines for individual components. This transforms overwhelming work into manageable chunks that feel achievable. Procrastination thrives on distant deadlines and large tasks. When something is due next month, your brain treats it as optional today. When a project feels massive, starting feels impossible. Micro-deadlines eliminate both of these procrastination triggers by making everything small and immediate. The technique works because of how your brain processes urgency. Distant deadlines activate almost no motivational response. But deadlines in the next few hours create genuine urgency. They trigger your brain's action systems. They make starting feel necessary rather than optional. You begin by breaking any large task into the smallest possible steps. Instead of write report, you create outline main points, research first section, write introduction paragraph. Each microtask should take no more than 20 to 30 minutes to complete. Then you assign each microtask a specific deadline. Not someday or eventually. Actual times. Outline main points by 2 p.m. today. Research first section by 10 a.m. tomorrow. Write introduction by 4 p.m. Wednesday. These deadlines should be challenging but achievable. The magic happens when deadlines are only hours away. Your brain can't ignore something due in 2 hours the way it ignores something due in 2 weeks. The proximity creates natural motivation. You find yourself working without having to force yourself. This approach also creates momentum. Completing small tasks feels good. Success builds confidence. Each finished microtask makes the next one feel more achievable. You develop rhythm instead of struggling to start. Professional writers use this instinctively. They don't try to write entire books in single sessions. They set word count goals for individual days. They create chapter deadlines. They break writing into small, time-bound pieces. The key is making micro-deadlines real. Put them in your calendar. Set reminders. Tell others about them if that creates helpful pressure. Treat them as seriously as you would treat external deadlines from bosses or clients. Use as if behavior to shift mood. Use as if behavior to shift mood means acting like you already feel the way you want to feel. Instead of waiting for your emotions to change naturally, you change your behavior first. Your feelings follow your actions more than your actions follow your feelings. This technique leverages that connection to improve your emotional state quickly. The approach works because of how your brain interprets your own behavior. When you act confident, your brain assumes you must be confident. When you behave energetically, your mind concludes you must be energetic. Your brain uses your actions as evidence for how you should feel. This isn't about faking emotions or being dishonest. It's about using behavior to guide your internal state toward where you want it to be. It's about taking control of your emotional trajectory instead of feeling like a victim of your moods. The technique applies to many situations. Feeling unmotivated? Act as if you're highly motivated. Move quickly. Speak with enthusiasm. Take immediate action on important tasks. Your energy will start matching your behavior. Feeling anxious before an important meeting? Act as if you're calm and confident. Slow your breathing. Relax your posture. Speak more slowly and deliberately. Your nervous system will begin to match your outward composure. Feeling disconnected from others? Act as if you're genuinely interested in people. Ask thoughtful questions. Listen actively. Show authentic curiosity. Your social feelings will warm as your behavior becomes more engaging. The key is specificity. Don't just try to act happy. Identify exactly how a happy person would behave in your current situation. How would they walk? How would they speak? What would they focus on? Then embody those specific behaviors. This technique works because emotions and behavior are deeply connected in your nervous system. Changing one naturally influences the other. You can use this connection intentionally instead of letting it happen randomly. Professional actors understand this intuitively. They don't wait to feel like their characters. They adopt the character's behaviors and let the emotions follow. They know that authentic feeling often comes after authentic action. The approach requires some initial effort. Acting differently than you feel can seem awkward at first. But the emotional shift usually happens quickly once you commit to the behavioral changes. Replace have to with get to. Replace have to with get to means changing your internal language from obligation to opportunity. Instead of saying, I have to go to work, you say, I get to go to work. Instead of, I have to exercise, you say, I get to exercise. This simple word swap transforms your relationship with daily activities and responsibilities. The language change works because words shape perception. Have to implies burden and external pressure. It suggests you're being forced into something unpleasant. Get to implies privilege and choice. It suggests you're fortunate to have this opportunity. Most of your daily activities are actually privileges when viewed from the right perspective. Having work means you have skills others value. Having exercise routines means your body is capable of movement. Having family obligations means you have people who care about you. The shift requires conscious effort at first. Your brain defaults to obligation thinking. You automatically frame responsibilities as burdens. Changing this pattern takes deliberate practice and constant awareness of your internal dialogue. Start by catching yourself using have to language throughout the day. Notice when you complain about things you actually chose. When you frame opportunities as obligations. When you focus on what you must do instead of what you're able to do. Then consciously rephrase these thoughts. I have to attend this meeting becomes, I get to contribute to this decision. I have to cook dinner becomes, I get to nourish my family. I have to pay bills becomes, I get to maintain the services I enjoy. This isn't about pretending everything is wonderful. Some obligations genuinely are burdens. But many things you frame as have to are actually choices you've made. Choices that provide benefits you value. The language shift changes your emotional experience. Tasks feel lighter when framed as opportunities. You approach activities with more energy and enthusiasm. You notice benefits you previously overlooked. People who naturally think this way tend to be more grateful and optimistic. They see their lives as full of chances to contribute and experience rather than lists of requirements to fulfill. They find joy in ordinary activities that others treat as drudgery. The technique works especially well for parenting, work, and health activities. These areas of life often feel heavy with obligation but are actually filled with meaningful opportunities. Ask, what's the opportunity here? Ask, what's the opportunity here, means training yourself to look for potential benefits in every situation. Especially challenging or unexpected ones. Most people focus immediately on problems, obstacles, and negative aspects. This question forces your brain to search for possibilities instead. It shifts your mental energy from complaints to creativity. The question works because it changes your search pattern. When faced with setbacks or changes, your brain naturally looks for threats and problems. This was useful for survival thousands of years ago. But it creates unnecessary stress in modern situations. Deliberately seeking opportunities rewires this automatic response. Every situation contains multiple perspectives. The same event can be viewed as disaster or chance for growth. A job loss can mean financial stress or freedom to find better work. A relationship ending can mean loneliness or space for self-discovery. A business failure can mean embarrassment or valuable learning experience. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending problems don't exist. It's about expanding your view to include possibilities you might otherwise miss. You acknowledge difficulties while also exploring what might be gained from the situation. The practice requires pausing when things go wrong. Instead of immediately reacting with frustration or worry, you take a breath and ask the question, what opportunities might this create? What could I learn? How might this redirect me towards something better? Often the opportunities aren't obvious at first. They require creative thinking and willingness to see beyond immediate circumstances. The best opportunities sometimes hide inside the biggest challenges. They reveal themselves only to people who actively look for them. Successful entrepreneurs use this thinking constantly. When faced with market changes or competitor actions, they don't just see threats. They ask what new needs these changes create, what gaps in the market are opening, how they might serve customers better than before. The question also applies to personal relationships and daily frustrations. Traffic jams become chances for podcast listening or quiet thinking time. Difficult colleagues become opportunities to practice patience and communication skills. Health challenges become motivations for better lifestyle choices. The key is genuine curiosity. Don't force positive interpretations that feel fake. Look for real opportunities that actually exist. Sometimes they're small. Sometimes they require long-term thinking. But they're almost always there if you search carefully. Regular practice builds optimism and resilience. You develop confidence that you can find value in any situation. Problems feel less overwhelming when you know opportunities often accompany them. Start with the hardest task first, eat the frog. Start with the hardest task first means tackling your most challenging or important work at the beginning of each day. This concept, popularized as eating the frog, suggests that if you eat a live frog first thing in the morning, nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. Your most difficult task is your frog. This approach works because your willpower and mental energy are strongest in the morning. You haven't yet been depleted by decisions, distractions, and daily stresses. Your mind is fresh and focused. Your motivation is at its peak. This is exactly when you should face your biggest challenges. Most people do the opposite. They start with easy tasks like checking email or organizing their desk. They save hard work for later when they feel more prepared. But later never brings more energy or motivation. It brings fatigue and accumulated stress from the day's activities. Procrastination feeds on this backwards approach. When you avoid difficult tasks early, they loom larger throughout the day. They create mental drain even when you're not working on them. They generate anxiety and guilt that affects everything else you do. The hard task is usually the most important one. It's the project that will make the biggest difference. The conversation that needs to happen. The decision that's been delayed too long. These activities deserve your best mental resources, not your leftovers. Starting with difficulty creates momentum for the entire day. When you accomplish something challenging early, everything else feels manageable by comparison. You build confidence and energy that carries through other activities. You feel productive and in control. The technique requires preparation the night before. You must identify your frog while your mind is clear. You must set up your workspace so you can start immediately. You must protect your morning time from interruptions and distractions. Successful people across many fields follow this pattern. Writers tackle their hardest chapters first. Athletes do their most demanding training early. Business leaders handle their toughest decisions before other meetings. They understand that peak performance has optimal timing. The key is being honest about what's truly hardest and most important. Not what feels urgent because of external pressure. Not what's easiest to measure or check off. But what will make the biggest positive impact if done well. Some days your frog is a single large project. Other days it's a collection of difficult smaller tasks. The principle remains the same. Face your biggest challenges when you're strongest, not when you're weakest. Create a ritual to trigger focus mode. Create a ritual to trigger focus mode means developing a specific sequence of actions that signals to your brain it's time for deep concentration. Like athletes who follow the same routine before every game. You can train your mind to enter focus states on command through consistent behavioral cues. The ritual works because your brain loves patterns and associations. When you repeatedly do the same sequence of activities before focused work, Your mind learns to anticipate what comes next. The ritual becomes a trigger that automatically shifts your mental state from scattered to concentrated. Your focus ritual should be simple enough to do anywhere but specific enough to create strong associations. It might include clearing your workspace, making tea, playing specific music, doing breathing exercises, or reviewing your goals. The exact activities matter less than consistency. The key is linking these actions exclusively to focused work sessions. Don't use your ritual music for casual listening. Don't do your ritual breathing exercises randomly throughout the day. Reserve these triggers for when you actually need deep concentration. This preserves their psychological power. Many successful professionals develop elaborate focus rituals. Some writers light candles and play classical music. Some programmers arrange their workspace in specific ways and put on noise-canceling headphones. Some executives review their priorities while drinking coffee in the same chair. The ritual should take 5 to 15 minutes. Long enough to create mental separation from previous activities. Short enough that you actually do it consistently. The timing helps your brain transition from reactive mode to proactive mode. Location can be part of your ritual. Having a specific place associated with deep work strengthens the focus trigger. This might be a particular desk, chair, or corner of a room. Some people even change clothes to signal the shift to serious work mode. The ritual also serves as protection against distractions. Once you've completed your sequence and entered focus mode, you're more likely to maintain concentration. Interruptions feel more jarring and inappropriate. You develop stronger resistance to attention-stealing activities. Building an effective ritual requires experimentation. Try different combinations of activities and timing. Notice what helps your mind settle into focused work. Pay attention to which elements feel most powerful in triggering concentration. The investment in developing a focus ritual pays dividends for years. Instead of hoping focus will arrive naturally, you can summon it reliably when needed. This turns deep work from an accident into a skill you can access on demand. Capture ideas immediately before they vanish. Capture ideas immediately before they vanish means having systems ready to record thoughts the moment they occur. Ideas are extremely fragile. They appear suddenly and disappear just as quickly if not captured. Your brain constantly generates insights, solutions, and creative connections. But it doesn't store them reliably unless you take immediate action. The problem with ideas is their timing. They rarely arrive when convenient. Great insights come during conversations, while driving, in the shower, just before sleep. These moments don't align with your planning schedules or organized thinking time. Ideas operate on their own timeline. Most people trust their memory to hold important thoughts. This trust is misplaced. Research shows that even brilliant ideas fade within minutes if not externally recorded. Your brain is designed to keep generating new thoughts, not perfectly preserve old ones. The solution requires always having capture tools available. A small notebook in your pocket. A voice recording app on your phone. A notepad by your bed. Email drafts ready for quick thoughts. The specific tool matters less than having something immediately accessible. The capture process should be as frictionless as possible. If recording an idea takes too much effort, you won't do it consistently. The best system allows you to preserve thoughts in seconds with minimal interruption to whatever else you're doing. Voice recording works especially well for many people. You can capture complex ideas while walking, driving, or doing other activities. Speaking feels more natural than writing for verbal thinkers. Voice memos preserve tone and emotion along with content. The key is capturing first and organizing later. Don't worry about perfect formatting or complete sentences in the moment. Just preserve enough detail to reconstruct the idea later. Raw capture now, polished thinking later. Many breakthrough innovations started as quickly captured fragments. Inventors keep notebooks by their beds. Writers carry pens everywhere. Entrepreneurs record voice memos during daily activities. They understand that today's random thought might become tomorrow's important project. Building a capture habit requires consistent tools and consistent behavior. Choose one primary method and stick with it. Practice recording thoughts even when they seem unimportant. This builds the reflex you'll need when truly valuable ideas appear. Review your captured ideas regularly. Schedule time to go through notes and voice memos. Some thoughts that seemed minor become significant later. Others combine with new information to create unexpected insights. Use one-sentence summary to clarify thinking. Use one-sentence summary to clarify thinking means forcing yourself to distill complex ideas into single, clear statements. When you can explain something in one sentence, you truly understand it. When you need multiple paragraphs to explain a simple concept, your thinking is probably still muddled. This technique works because it requires you to identify the essential core of any idea. You must strip away secondary details, tangential thoughts, and unnecessary complexity. You must find the heart of the matter. This process clarifies your own understanding while making your ideas more accessible to others. The constraint of one sentence forces hard choices. You cannot include everything. You must decide what matters most. This decision-making process reveals gaps in your logic and understanding. It exposes areas where your thinking needs more work. The practice applies to many situations. Before important meetings, summarize your main point in one sentence. When writing reports, start with a one-sentence thesis. When making decisions, state your reasoning in a single clear statement. When learning new concepts, test your understanding with one-sentence explanations. Professional communicators use this instinctively. Journalists write headlines that capture entire stories. Executives give elevator pitches that summarize complex business concepts. Teachers explain difficult subjects in simple terms. They understand that clarity comes from simplification, not complication. The technique also helps with decision-making. When facing complex choices, try summarizing each option in one sentence. The best path often becomes obvious once you've stripped away the noise and focused on core outcomes. Writing one-sentence summaries is harder than it appears. Your first attempts will probably be too long or too vague. You'll want to add qualifiers and exceptions. Resist these temptations. Keep refining until you have one clear, complete sentence. The process forces precision in language. Every word must earn its place. Vague terms like good or important won't survive the compression. You'll need specific, meaningful language that conveys exact meaning efficiently. This skill transfers to all forms of communication. Once you can summarize ideas in single sentences, longer explanations become easier to organize. You build outward from the clear central statement rather than hoping clarity emerges from accumulated details. The technique reveals whether you truly understand what you're trying to communicate. If you cannot create a one-sentence summary, you probably need to think more carefully about your core message. Shift perspective with physical movement. Shift perspective with physical movement means using bodily motion to unlock new ways of thinking about problems. When you feel mentally stuck or emotionally trapped in a situation, changing your physical position often changes your mental position too. Your brain and body are more connected than most people realize. Moving your body literally moves your thoughts. This connection exists because thinking isn't just a brain activity. Your entire nervous system participates in processing information and generating ideas. When you sit in the same position for hours, your thinking becomes as static as your posture. Movement activates different neural pathways and stimulates fresh connections. Walking is one of the most powerful tools for mental breakthrough. Many famous thinkers took daily walks specifically to solve problems. Charles Darwin had a thinking path at his home where he worked through complex theories. Steve Jobs held walking meetings for important discussions. They understood that movement enhances creativity and clarity. The technique works for emotional challenges too. When you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or stuck in negative thinking patterns, getting up and moving breaks the cycle. Physical activity changes your biochemistry. It releases tension held in your muscles. It shifts your focus from internal rumination to external awareness. Different types of movement serve different purposes. Gentle walking helps with creative thinking and problem solving. More vigorous exercise like jogging or swimming helps process strong emotions and reduce stress. Stretching and yoga help with flexibility in both body and mind. The key is intentional movement with specific mental goals. Don't just exercise for physical fitness. Use movement as a thinking tool. Before you start moving, define what mental shift you're seeking. What problem needs fresh perspective? What emotion needs processing? What decision needs clarity? Some people think better while walking outdoors. Others prefer indoor pacing. Some need rhythmic activities like swimming. Others benefit from varied movement like hiking. Experiment to discover what types of physical activity best stimulate your mental processes. The shift often happens gradually. You start moving while still thinking about the problem in old ways. But as your body settles into rhythm and your environment changes, new perspectives begin emerging. Solutions that seemed impossible become obvious. Emotions that felt overwhelming become manageable. You don't need long workout sessions for this benefit. Even 5 minutes of movement can shift your mental state significantly. Standing up and stretching during difficult conversations. Taking a brief walk when facing tough decisions. Changing rooms when feeling creatively blocked. The practice becomes more powerful with consistency. Regular movement creates a reliable tool for mental flexibility. You develop confidence that physical motion can unlock mental motion whenever you need it. Ask, will this matter in 5 years? Ask, will this matter in 5 years, means using time perspective to evaluate the true importance of current concerns. Most daily stresses and frustrations feel enormous in the moment but shrink dramatically when viewed from a longer timeline. This simple question instantly reveals whether something deserves your emotional energy or can be safely ignored. The question works because it forces you to step outside immediate circumstances and consider lasting impact. Your brain naturally focuses on whatever feels urgent right now. This served humans well when facing physical dangers. But it creates unnecessary anxiety about temporary setbacks and minor inconveniences in modern life. Most things that upset you today will be completely forgotten within months. That embarrassing mistake at work. The argument with your spouse. The traffic jam that made you late. The critical email from a difficult client. These events feel significant when they happen but rarely have lasting consequences. The 5-year timeframe is particularly effective because it's long enough to gain real perspective but short enough to imagine realistically. 10 years feels too distant to visualize clearly. 1 year might still include lingering effects from current problems. 5 years provides the right balance for perspective. This technique especially helps with relationship conflicts. Most arguments stem from temporary misunderstandings or minor irritations. When you ask whether today's disagreement will matter in 5 years, the answer is usually no. This realization helps you respond with patience instead of defensiveness. The question also applies to career setbacks and professional disappointments. Missing a promotion might feel devastating today. But in 5 years, you might have a completely different job with better opportunities. Failed projects that seem career-ending often become valuable learning experiences that improve future performance. Some things genuinely will matter in 5 years. Major health decisions. Relationship choices. Financial investments. Educational opportunities. Career direction changes. These deserve careful consideration and emotional investment. The question helps you identify what truly warrants your concern. Using this perspective doesn't mean ignoring current problems or avoiding responsibility. It means allocating your mental and emotional resources wisely. You handle necessary tasks without generating unnecessary stress about temporary difficulties. The practice builds emotional resilience over time. You develop confidence that most current problems will resolve themselves or become irrelevant. This reduces anxiety and increases your ability to focus on what genuinely matters. Regular use of this question changes your default response to setbacks. Instead of immediately assuming something is catastrophic, you automatically consider its long-term significance. This creates a calmer, more balanced approach to daily challenges. Visualize energy as a bank account. Visualize energy as a bank account means treating your physical and mental energy like money that can be spent, saved, and invested. Just as you wouldn't spend all your money without considering the consequences, you shouldn't spend all your energy without strategic thinking. This mental model helps you make better decisions about how to allocate your most precious resource. The bank account metaphor works because it makes abstract energy concepts concrete and manageable. You can visualize your energy balance going up or down based on your choices. You can plan energy expenditures like financial expenditures. You can identify activities that drain your account versus those that make deposits. Every activity either deposits energy or withdraws it. Good sleep makes major deposits. Exercise initially withdraws energy but creates bigger deposits later. Meaningful work with clear purpose adds energy. Busy work and meaningless meetings drain it rapidly. Time with energizing people fills your account. Time with energy vampires depletes it. Morning typically brings your highest energy balance. This is when you should make your biggest withdrawals for important work. As the day progresses, your account balance decreases. Evening activities should require smaller energy expenditures unless you want to go into deficit. Going into energy debt creates serious consequences. Physical exhaustion. Mental fog. Emotional reactivity. Poor decision-making. Weakened immune system. Just like financial debt, energy debt compounds and becomes harder to repay over time. The key is becoming conscious of energy transactions throughout your day. Before committing to activities, ask yourself whether you can afford the energy cost. Before saying yes to requests, check your energy balance. Before planning your schedule, consider the energy requirements of each commitment. Some people naturally have larger energy accounts than others. But everyone can learn to manage their energy more effectively. This means identifying your personal energy drains and energy sources. What activities leave you feeling depleted? What experiences restore and energize you? Energy management becomes especially important during busy periods. When work demands are high or personal stress increases, you need careful energy budgeting. This might mean saying no to optional social events. Simplifying meal preparation. Reducing perfectionist standards on less important tasks. Recovery time functions like making deposits in your energy account. Rest isn't laziness when your account is depleted. It's necessary maintenance that prevents total energy bankruptcy. Quality sleep, relaxation, and enjoyable activities all make crucial deposits. The visualization helps with long-term planning too. Major life changes require significant energy investments. Starting new jobs, moving homes, ending relationships, beginning exercise programs. Planning these energy expenditures prevents overwhelming yourself with too many demands simultaneously. Redefine failure as data collection. Redefine failure as data collection means changing how you interpret unsuccessful attempts from personal shortcomings to valuable information gathering. Instead of viewing failures as evidence that you're inadequate, you see them as experiments that provide crucial data about what doesn't work. This shift transforms setbacks from emotional disasters into learning opportunities. The redefinition works because it removes the personal judgment that makes failure painful. When something doesn't work, you haven't failed as a person. You've simply discovered that this particular approach doesn't achieve your desired outcome. The attempt generated useful data about what to try differently next time. Scientists understand this naturally. When experiments don't produce expected results, researchers don't consider themselves failures. They analyze the data, form new hypotheses, and design better experiments. Each unsuccessful attempt provides information that guides future efforts more effectively. This mindset applies to every area of life. Business ventures that don't succeed provide data about market conditions, customer preferences, and execution challenges. Relationships that don't work out teach you about compatibility, communication patterns, and personal needs. Job interviews that don't result in offers reveal information about your presentation skills and market positioning. The key is shifting from emotional reactions to analytical thinking. Instead of asking, "Why do I always fail?" you ask, "What did this attempt teach me?" Instead of concluding, "I'm not good at this," you conclude, "This approach doesn't work under these conditions." Treating failure as data collection requires documenting what you learn. After unsuccessful attempts, spend time identifying specific lessons. What factors contributed to the outcome? What would you do differently? What assumptions proved incorrect? This analysis converts raw experience into actionable knowledge. The approach also removes the stigma that prevents people from attempting challenging goals. When failure means data collection rather than personal inadequacy, you become more willing to experiment with difficult projects. You take calculated risks because unsuccessful attempts still provide value. Successful entrepreneurs exemplify this thinking. They launch products expecting some will fail. But each failure teaches them about customer needs, market conditions, and business execution. These lessons inform better decisions in future ventures. They treat unsuccessful businesses as expensive but valuable education. The mindset doesn't eliminate disappointment when things don't work out, but it prevents disappointment from becoming despair or self-criticism. You can feel sad about outcomes while still appreciating the information you've gained. Building this perspective takes practice. Your brain defaults to interpreting failure as personal inadequacy. Consciously reframing setbacks as learning experiences gradually rewires these automatic responses. Over time, you develop genuine excitement about the data that unsuccessful attempts provide. Use checklists to reduce mental load. Use checklists to reduce mental load means creating external systems to handle routine decisions so your brain can focus on creative and strategic thinking. Your mind has limited capacity for conscious attention. When you use mental energy remembering routine tasks and procedures, less energy remains for important work that requires genuine thinking. Checklists work by moving information from your unreliable internal memory to reliable external storage. Instead of trying to remember every step of complex processes, you follow written procedures. This prevents errors caused by forgetting crucial steps. It also frees your mental resources for higher-level thinking. The technique applies to both simple and complex activities. Morning routines become more efficient with checklists. Travel preparation becomes less stressful. Work projects become more thorough. Any recurring process benefits from having documented steps that eliminate guesswork. Professional pilots understand this completely. They use detailed checklists for every flight phase despite having performed these procedures thousands of times. The checklists prevent dangerous errors caused by memory lapses or distractions. Lives depend on following systematic procedures rather than trusting memory. Creating effective checklists requires careful observation of your own processes. When you perform routine tasks, notice every step involved. Document the sequence. Include steps that seem obvious because obvious things are often forgotten under pressure or when tired. The key is making checklists specific and actionable. Vague items like, prepare for meeting, don't reduce mental load. Specific items like, review agenda, gather materials, test technology, print handouts, create clear action steps that require no additional thinking. Checklists should be easily accessible when needed. Digital lists on your phone work well for mobile situations. Printed lists work better for activities performed in specific locations. The format matters less than having the list available when you need it. Regular maintenance keeps checklists useful. As processes evolve, update your documented procedures. Remove steps that become unnecessary. Add steps that improve outcomes. Checklists should be living documents that reflect current best practices. The mental load reduction becomes noticeable quickly. You stop carrying around mental lists of things to remember. You stop worrying about forgetting important steps. You complete routine tasks more efficiently because you're not constantly making micro-decisions about what comes next. This approach scales from personal activities to team processes. Shared checklists ensure consistent execution across different people. They reduce training time for new team members. They prevent institutional knowledge from disappearing when experienced people leave. The goal isn't to eliminate all thinking from your activities. It's to eliminate unnecessary thinking so your brain can focus on areas where your unique judgment and creativity add real value. Speak goals aloud for commitment. Speak goals aloud for commitment means verbalizing your intentions instead of keeping them locked in your head. When you say goals out loud, you transform internal thoughts into external declarations. This simple act dramatically increases the likelihood you'll follow through on your commitments. Your brain treats spoken words differently than silent thoughts. The technique works because speaking creates multiple levels of accountability. First, you hear your own voice making the commitment, which registers more strongly than internal dialogue. Second, if others hear your declaration, you create social pressure to follow through. Third, spoken goals feel more real and concrete than abstract mental wishes. Most people keep their important goals private, thinking this protects them from embarrassment if they fail. But this privacy actually reduces their chances of success. When goals remain internal, they compete with countless other thoughts for attention. They can be forgotten, modified, or abandoned without consequences. Speaking goals aloud forces you to commit to specific language. You can't be vague when you're talking to yourself or others. You must choose exact words that define what you want to accomplish. This precision clarifies your intentions and makes progress measurable. The practice works even when you're alone. Stand in front of a mirror and state your goals clearly. Say what you want to achieve and when you want to achieve it. Hear yourself making these commitments. This creates internal accountability that silent goal setting cannot match. Public declarations amplify the effect significantly. When you tell family, friends, or colleagues about your goals, you engage their support and create external pressure. People will ask about your progress. This social dimension transforms private wishes into public commitments. The key is choosing your words carefully when speaking goals. Don't say, I hope to, or I'll try to, or maybe I can. Use definitive language like, I will, and I am going to. Weak language creates escape routes that undermine commitment. Timing matters too. Speak your goals when you feel motivated and confident. Morning declarations work well because your energy is high. Speaking goals during low-energy periods can feel overwhelming rather than motivating. Some people resist this technique because they fear judgment if they don't succeed. But the fear of social embarrassment actually increases motivation to follow through. The slight discomfort of public commitment is far outweighed by the increased likelihood of achievement. Regular repetition strengthens the effect. Don't just declare goals once. Speak them aloud weekly or even daily. This repetition keeps them prominent in your consciousness. It prevents other priorities from crowding out your important commitments. The practice also reveals goals that don't truly matter to you. If you feel uncomfortable speaking a goal aloud, it might not be genuinely important. Goals that align with your values and desires feel natural to declare openly. Identify keystone habits that trigger others. Identify keystone habits that trigger others means finding single behaviors that automatically create positive changes in multiple areas of your life. Like the keystone in an arch that holds all other stones in place, certain habits support and trigger many other beneficial behaviors. Focusing on these powerful habits creates cascading improvements with minimal effort. Keystone habits work because they change how you see yourself and create momentum for related behaviors. When you establish one strong positive habit, it becomes easier to maintain other positive habits. The identity shift from someone who doesn't exercise to someone who exercises regularly makes healthy eating and better sleep feel more natural. Exercise is a classic keystone habit for many people. When you start exercising regularly, other healthy behaviors often follow automatically. You begin eating better because you want to fuel your workouts properly. You sleep better because your body needs recovery. You feel more confident and energetic throughout the day. Planning and preparation represent another powerful keystone habit. When you spend time each evening preparing for the next day, multiple areas improve simultaneously. Your mornings become smoother. Your work becomes more focused. Your stress decreases because you feel more in control. Financial tracking often triggers broader money management improvements. When people start recording their daily expenses, they naturally begin making better spending decisions. They become more aware of waste. They start looking for ways to increase income. They develop stronger financial discipline across all areas. The key is identifying which habits create the most positive ripple effects in your specific life. Different keystone habits work for different people based on their circumstances, values, and challenges. What triggers positive changes for your friend might not work the same way for you. Look for habits that affect your identity and energy levels. Behaviors that make you feel capable and confident tend to support other positive choices. Activities that increase your physical or mental energy create capacity for additional good habits. Morning routines often function as keystone habits. When you start your day with intentional activities like meditation, exercise, or planning, you set a positive tone that influences later decisions. The sense of accomplishment from completing morning tasks creates momentum for the entire day. The power of keystone habits lies in their efficiency. Instead of trying to change everything at once, you focus intensively on establishing one crucial habit. Once that habit becomes automatic, other improvements follow naturally without additional willpower or effort. Building keystone habits requires patience and consistency. The cascading effects don't appear immediately. You might exercise regularly for weeks before noticing improvements in other areas. But once the connections strengthen, the benefits multiply exponentially. Focus on one keystone habit at a time. Trying to establish multiple powerful habits simultaneously often leads to failure. Master one foundational behavior completely before attempting to add another keystone habit to your routine. Apply, subtract before add, thinking. Apply, subtract before add, thinking means looking for things to remove from your life before trying to add new things. Most people approach problems by adding more activities, tools, systems, or commitments. But often the best solution involves eliminating something that's causing the problem. Subtraction frequently works better than addition but gets considered less often. This approach works because addition feels productive while subtraction feels like giving up. Your brain associates adding with progress and removing with failure. But this bias prevents you from seeing powerful solutions that involve doing less rather than more. Sometimes the best way to improve your life is to stop doing things that aren't serving you. The technique applies to many common challenges. Feeling overwhelmed at work. Instead of finding better time management tools, identify meetings or projects you can eliminate. Struggling with decision fatigue. Rather than seeking decision-making frameworks, reduce the number of decisions you make daily. Subtraction thinking works especially well for productivity problems. When your schedule feels packed, the instinct is to find ways to fit more in. But removing low-value activities often creates more space than optimizing high-value ones. Saying no to good opportunities leaves room for great ones. The approach requires honest evaluation of current activities. Many things you do regularly no longer serve their original purpose. Meetings that could be emails. Commitments you accepted months ago but no longer value. Possessions that create maintenance burden without providing benefits. Social commitments especially benefit from subtraction thinking. Instead of trying to manage difficult relationships better, consider whether those relationships deserve your energy at all. Rather than finding ways to tolerate energy-draining people, limit your exposure to them. Digital life offers many subtraction opportunities. Unsubscribing from emails reduces decision fatigue. Deleting apps removes temptation. Unfollowing social media accounts that create negative emotions improves mental health. These subtractions happen once but provide ongoing benefits. The key is starting with subtraction before considering addition. When facing any challenge, ask what you could remove rather than what you could add. What activities could you stop? What commitments could you end? What possessions could you eliminate? This thinking extends to mental habits too. Instead of trying to add positive thoughts, focus on removing negative thought patterns. Rather than forcing optimism, eliminate sources of unnecessary worry. Subtraction often feels more authentic than forced addition. Physical spaces benefit tremendously from subtraction. Instead of buying organizing systems, remove items you don't use. Rather than finding clever storage solutions, own fewer things that need storage. Empty space often provides more peace than filled space. The practice requires overcoming loss aversion. Your brain resists giving up things you already have even when those things provide little value. But the freedom created by subtraction often exceeds the temporary discomfort of letting go. Use gratitude to reframe envy. Use gratitude to reframe envy means deliberately focusing on what you appreciate about your own life when you feel envious of others. Envy is natural but destructive. It focuses your attention on what you lack rather than what you have. Gratitude provides the antidote by shifting your perspective from scarcity to abundance. Envy works by comparing your inner reality to other people's outer appearances. You compare your struggles to their successes, your doubts to their confidence, your behind-the-scenes reality to their highlight reel. This comparison is inherently unfair because you have complete information about your life but limited information about theirs. The technique works because envy and gratitude cannot coexist. When you genuinely appreciate what you have, it becomes much harder to resent what others have. Gratitude fills the emotional space that envy typically occupies. It redirects your mental energy from wanting what others have to valuing what you possess. The practice requires catching envious thoughts quickly. Notice when you feel that familiar sting of wanting someone else's life. Instead of indulging those feelings or feeling guilty about having them, use them as cues to practice gratitude. What do you have that you're taking for granted? Start with basics that are easy to appreciate. Your health, even if imperfect. Your shelter, even if modest. Your relationships, even if complicated. Your opportunities, even if limited. These fundamental blessings exist in your life regardless of what others might have. Then move to more specific appreciations. The skills you've developed. The experiences you've enjoyed. The challenges you've overcome. The progress you've made. The people who care about you. These unique aspects of your life cannot be compared meaningfully to anyone else's. The key is being genuine rather than forced. Don't pretend to feel grateful if you don't. Start with small things you can honestly appreciate. Real gratitude for minor blessings works better than fake gratitude for major ones. Authenticity matters more than magnitude. This doesn't mean avoiding inspiration from others' successes. You can admire what people have accomplished while appreciating your own journey. The goal is transforming envious comparison into motivated appreciation. Using others' achievements as evidence of possibility rather than proof of your inadequacy. Social media makes this practice especially important. Constant exposure to other people's curated lives creates endless opportunities for envy. Building strong gratitude habits provides protection against this comparison trap. You can enjoy others' success without diminishing your own worth. The practice becomes more powerful with consistency. Daily gratitude reflection builds emotional resilience against envious thoughts. You develop a mental habit of noticing your blessings rather than your shortcomings. This shift improves overall life satisfaction significantly. Remember that everyone struggles with envy sometimes. The people you envy probably envy others too. This universal human experience connects rather than isolates you. Using gratitude to transform envy becomes a gift to yourself and others. End the week with a reflection ritual. End the week with a reflection ritual means creating a consistent practice for reviewing your experiences and preparing for what comes next. Most people rush from week to week without pausing to process what happened or plan what's ahead. This weekly reflection creates space for learning from experience and setting intentions for future growth. The ritual works because it provides closure and preparation simultaneously. You acknowledge what you accomplished during the past week. You identify what you learned from successes and setbacks. You clarify priorities for the upcoming week. This process prevents weeks from blending together in an unmindful blur. Regular reflection transforms experience into wisdom. Without reflection, you might repeat mistakes or miss important lessons. You might overlook progress you've made or fail to appreciate positive changes in your life. The weekly ritual ensures that experience becomes learning rather than just activity. The practice should include both celebration and analysis. What went well this week? What are you proud of accomplishing? What brought you joy or satisfaction? Acknowledging positive experiences reinforces behaviors that create those outcomes. It builds confidence and momentum for future efforts. Equally important is honest assessment of challenges. What didn't go as planned? What caused stress or frustration? What would you handle differently? This analysis isn't about self-criticism but about learning. Understanding what doesn't work helps you make better choices going forward. The ritual also includes forward-looking elements. What are your priorities for next week? What important tasks need attention? What potential challenges should you prepare for? This planning component helps you start each new week with clear direction rather than reactive scrambling. The timing and format should fit your lifestyle. Some people prefer Friday afternoons to close out the work week. Others choose Sunday evenings to prepare for the week ahead. The specific day matters less than consistency. Pick a time you can protect regularly. The reflection can be written or mental, but writing often provides better results. Putting thoughts on paper forces clearer thinking. Written reflections become valuable records you can review months later to track patterns and progress over time. Keep the ritual simple enough to maintain consistently. Elaborate processes often get abandoned after a few weeks. A simple framework of 3 questions works well. What went well? What didn't go well? What will I focus on next week? This structure provides enough guidance without becoming burdensome. The practice becomes more valuable over time. Weekly reflections reveal patterns you can't see in daily experience. You notice recurring themes in your challenges and successes. You track progress toward long-term goals that might feel stagnant day to day. The ritual also provides emotional processing time. Weeks often contain difficult experiences that need attention. Regular reflection prevents unprocessed emotions from accumulating. It creates space for both celebration and healing.